the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 6, 3, 2, 9, 7.
Media doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. I'm here with your co-host, Frank Pierce. And we would like to say hello to all of you who might also have troubled minds. What's up, guys? It is Thursday night, and that means it is showtime. We are live. Normally the phones are up, so I would tell you to call this number and go to the website. You can still go to the website if you like, troubledminds.org. It's the official website. And you can call the number and leave us a voicemail, and we can maybe play that back on the show, or maybe the next show. So that is working, but right now the lines are down, unfortunately. So we're just going to be reading chat. So lean on the chat a little bit. We'll give us some good comments. We'll read them as we go. But otherwise, if you're new to this and all of this and Troubled Minds and who's Mike and who's Frank and what is all this, well, we're here talking about the things we're not supposed to talk about. You know what they are. The ones where you go to the water cooler and you ask your buddy that you think is your buddy, hey, do you think aliens exist? And he looks at you like you're insane, like you're like you've lost your mind entirely. And then he doesn't talk to you again, ever. Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of trying to take that spot. We're talking about all those things: conspiracy, aliens, the paranormal. We talk about propaganda, and tonight we've had a passing from the ufology community, and that would be Stanton Friedman, and we're going to be talking about him tonight a little bit and some of the things that he's contributed to. Yeah, to the story, to the zeitgeist, to the mythology of UFOs, and that. So yeah, we'll get into that as we go. We'll do some news per usual. There's some news updates that we're going to do, and again, it is live. So if you want to be part of the show, go ahead and chat, and we'll read your chat. We'll do shout outs shortly. So if you want to shout out, just type where you're from, and we'll shout you out. We are broadcasting from Las Vegas, as you heard, and so yeah, shout out from Las Vegas. Okay, those are coming, and yeah. Anything I missed, Frank, before I introduce you?
Sounds pretty good so far.
All right. So far, so good. And the other thing, ladies and gentlemen, your co-host, Frank Pierce.
Hello, my name is Frank Pierce, and we're back again for another exciting show. We got plenty to talk about. It's almost there's too much to talk about. Have you noticed that lately? There is so much news out there, and it's all interesting, and then there's so much uninteresting news on top of it. It's impossible to cover all this stuff. I'm sure there's 100 things that have gone by today that I don't even know about. So what do we have on tap? We have Stanton Friedman, of course. Really good guy. It's sad he passed away. One of the logical people in this UFO field. None of this new age hippy-dippy nonsense, you know. He actually looked at the data, looked at the numbers. A great guy. Sad he's left us. What else do we have? We got crazy police state antics up in the UK. We got a Chang E4 update. Wow. I never thought that would happen. And we have more about Tom Lasange and Blink 181, a little analysis of that footage. So much to talk about, so much to go through. Let's get into it. Let's keep going. I'm excited.
Did you say Tom Lasange and Blink 785?
Tom Lasange from Blink 181.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's how I'm calling him nowadays because I don't trust that guy. I don't want to get sued when I defame him. So now I am defaming a man named Tom Lasange, who formerly played in a band, Blink 181.
All right, got it. There we go. Now we're dodging lawsuits. That's when you know we've made it. Oh, geez. Okay. All right. So that's what we're doing. We're going to talk about that stuff and more. So again, normally we got phone calls, so the phone lines are down. We'll go ahead and type in chat, smash it away, and we'll read them as we can and fit it in. And otherwise, let's do some shout outs. What do we got? We got Voices. What's happening? First on Facebook. How you doing, buddy? We got Sean from Canada. What's happening? Philip from Southern Oregon. Dennis, Larry, Daniel. Hold on. What else? Let's see. Todd. What's happening, Todd? Dale. Sup? Yo. We got Dave. We got Justin. And let's see. Who else? There's more. Rogelio. What's happening, my man? And Paul. How you doing? Yes. Excellent. Frank and Mike. Yes. Hello, my fellow people. John from Texas. How you doing, buddy? We got Tim. We got, who else? We got Dave and another David and 3 Daves, 5 days. Patrick, what's happening? 2 Patricks. Michelle, what's happening? Hi, little green man, all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I believe that's Canada. Whoa, people in Canada listen to this. Amazing. Sherry, what's happening? Thanks for being here. We got Luke, we got Chris, and Michelle. My daughter just saw a UFO walking back from the corner store not 20 minutes ago, says Michelle. There you go. Did you get pictures? Did you get pictures? And last but not least, of course, the folks on YouTube and Mixer. Noble Kal-El, what's up? Thanks for hosting. Appreciate that on Mixer. We got Shadows of the Moon. Hello from on YouTube. And Stereo Winner 310 on Mixer. Trigger Happy J, Richard, and Soul Rebel Junglist on YouTube. There we go. That evens us out. So hello to everybody here from Las Vegas. And here we go. Where are we starting tonight, Frank? What are we looking at?
Let's get the difficult topics out of the way. Let's go to some government overreach, and then we'll get into the fun UFO stuff. So let's open up this Twitter link from the Regent's Park Police in London, England, in the UK. This is humorous. Let's take a look at this and see what's going on here. So, as you know, in the UK, you can't have guns. There's no Second Amendment there, unfortunately, for those people. And they're going so far as to confiscate little knives, little weapons. So let's take a look at this. Yesterday, we conducted weapon sweeps, dealt with a person injured, and collected some knives from a charity shop who didn't want these knives out in the street. So let's take a look at what these guys confiscated over in the UK. These are the dangerous weapons that are going to hurt people. These are the things that the criminals are going to grab onto and they're going to wreak havoc on the streets. So what do we have here? Well, I have to admit there is a sword on the side. It looks like a rapier, one of those foils that they use for fencing. What else do we got here? We got some knife sharpeners. Okay, I can see that you could stab someone with that. Wait a minute, how am I going to cut my Sunday roast without all these steak knives? They've taken them away from us. And do you see what I'm seeing here in this picture? This dangerous weapon in the picture here? Do you see it yet?
I see a couple that are pretty interesting. There's lots of paring knives for chopping your vegetables. I see like a tuning fork? Is that a tuning fork?
I think that's when you're cutting a turkey or cutting a roast, you use that to take the slices off. So again, no more Sunday morning roast, no more Easter turkeys.
Okay.
Look at that dangerous weapon. The spoon.
Is there a spoon?
They've confiscated. Yeah, there's a spoon on the left-hand side.
I see it.
So this is the state of the UK here. This is what they're doing. Look at this. How could you they're taking this stuff. What are we going to do? We're going to use our hands like animals, like barbarians to make food? Like, this is ridiculous. This is real, by the way. This is really going on. This is what the UK has devolved into, where you can't make your Sunday lunch. You can't use a spoon for your cereal. Of course, I agree with the rapier. You shouldn't be walking around the streets with that, but this is ridiculous. What do you think about this?
Well, I don't know. That spoon looks kind of rusty, so maybe it is actually dangerous to be eating like your morning cereal with that. I mean, right? Like tetanus or something. Especially with this whole vaccine business going on. I mean, right? Like tetanus, rust? Am I right? I don't know.
I suppose, but come on now. Like, this is everything wrong with the government. Why are they doing this? Why are the police? Look at their smiling faces in the background. I don't know if your screenshot captures that. These guys are so happy they've collected a spoon off the street, a rusty spoon that could be used to, scoop someone's eyeballs out? I don't even know how that could be used. Again, there is a sword. Good for them getting rid of that. Put it in a museum somewhere, or learn fencing. That's a cool sport I wish I had gotten into when I was younger. But this is ridiculous. This is absolutely insane.
Well, they've taken away all the guns, so actually you can have guns in Britain, but it's very a lot of red tape, difficult to get. So what has happened is they now have knife epidemics. So when people get attacked, it's easier to get knives, obviously, because you just open your kitchen drawer and pull out a knife. So that's become the next logical way to attack your neighbor or your friends or your family or what have you. And so that's what's happening. There's an actual epidemic over there of knives, and so they're talking about confiscating these types of knives and grinding off the tips, right? Because the tips are so dangerous, you could stab people. It's this is absurd. It's embarrassing that they're bragging about this. Like, get out of here. Also of note, I did see this article. This is maybe a few days old, but there's let's go to American style for this, and they just busted somebody in Los Angeles that had some like north of 1,000 guns in his house. I guess he was selling them illegally, but there we go. There's quite a big difference for you. The rest of the world thinks Americans are nuts, but look what's happening in Regent's Park, United Kingdom. They're taking knives off the streets. Notice, none of these are like actual combat knives, or most of them are not. They're like kitchen knives. These are like vegetable cutters, and oh god, oh boy, yeah. Good stuff here.
Yeah, should the aliens show up, and Stanton Friedman, again, we'll get into him in a bit. He thought they were definitely here. They've been here forever. Should they show up, what are we going to do? Poke at them with forks? Or are they going to take them away from us? What are we going to do? Anyway, I thought that was a fun story to start off with. I believe I even recall reading a story a while back where someone was arrested for carrying a potato peeler. They bought this potato peeler at a shop. They walked on their way home to go peel some potatoes, and they got arrested, and that thing was confiscated, a potato peeler. This is ridiculous. Let's open up the next one. BBC Click, again, from Twitter. What is it with Twitter nowadays? I should start using Twitter, maybe. Look at this. Let's just play the video. This is self-explanatory. More police state, more government overreach, more nonsense. Play this video. It's only a minute long. Let's see what he has to say.
All right, action. The headline, are you ready for a world of facial recognition? Several UK police forces have been trialing the technology. All right, action. Let's see. This is a facial recognition trial set up by police in East London. There's a van out front. Special cameras scan passerbys to find matches on a watch list. But not everyone is happy being scanned. No shit.
Don't cover my face, I cover my face. Don't push me over when I'm walking down the street.
This man didn't want his face captured by the cameras. But he was stopped by police and his picture was taken anyway.
How would you like if you walk down the street and someone grabbed you? Hold yourself down, you're going around. That's you. You would like it, would you? You mind your neck in?
What's your suspicion?
Yes. The fact that he walked past clearly marked
I would do the
recognition
same.
thing and covered his face.
I would do the same.
Gives us grounds to stop
No,
him
it doesn't.
and verify.
The police fined him for disorderly behavior for not wanting his
told me
picture
down the
taken.
road, he said he got facial recognition. So I walked past like that. It's a cold day as well. As I've done that, police officers asked me to come to him, so I've got me back up. I said to him, off, basically. I said, I don't want my face shown on anything. If I want to cover my face, I'll cover my face. It's not for them to tell me not to cover my face. I've got a now £90 fine. There you go. Look at that. Thanks, lads. £90. Well done.
From facial recognition, there were 3 arrests on this trial
We ought
day
to
alone.
explore all technology to see how it can keep people safer, how it can make policing more effective. However, we are completely aware of some of the concerns that are raised, and what we're doing with these trials is actually trying to understand those better so we can actually protect human rights but also keep people safe at the same time.
Yeah, you can kill that now.
Shut up. Shut this guy up. What the hell's he talking about? They should throw these tickets out. Like, if this was a just society where they're doing this, you'd go straight down with that 90-pound ticket he had. I don't even know what a pound equals, but it sounds really heavy. But if he goes down and actually challenges this, like, it should be thrown out. It should be thrown out. What the hell is this? This is not a free society. And this is where we're heading, people. This is disgusting. Sorry, Frank. I could probably stole your thunder there.
No, that's exactly right. And this is what's happening in the world. This is what's happening everywhere. And this is why we have the Constitution, right? To protect our rights. Listen to the guy. He's walking down the street, minding his own business. He doesn't want to be photographed. I don't want to be photographed either, quite frankly. Covers his face up. And then they wrestle him to the ground. I don't know if you missed that part. And then forcibly take his photograph. It's absolutely ridiculous. 100 pounds, I believe, or 90 pounds. I think it's like $100 or something around there. The shithole, pardon my language. That country, that wonderful country, their currency is devaluing it at a rapid rate for a very good reason, I would think. But look at this kind of stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's happening in China. Now it's happening in the UK. The Canadian viewers in the audience, I think you might be next. You're kind of with the Queen and all that, but you never know. So we got to protect our rights, prevent this stuff from happening. I just wanted to bring it up because it's kind of amusing at the same time, isn't it, to think that that's actually happening.
Yeah, this is the thing. So, okay, we got Dave in chat here on Facebook says, we lose a teenager every week due to knife crime here in London. I don't know if that's tongue-in-cheek or if that's real. But yeah, so that's what's happened, right? So, like, the gangs have started stabbing each other instead of shooting each other because it's easier to get knives than guns. Right? So, like, there's the logical progression, right? So you ban the guns, so they start shanking each other. So then you ban the knives, then what? Then they start spooning each other. Yeah. Insert bad joke here.
Ban clubs next, because clubs, you could club someone over the head. Ban a sock, ban your fists, because eventually it'll resort to that, right? We're very good at killing people with our fists. So it's just going to keep happening. And they're going to keep being restrictive and more restrictive until you need permission to leave your house. You need permission to go on your way to work. If you deviate from your routine, well, the police will show up at your door. There has to be better ways. Like, this is treating the symptom of the problem, right? That's always the issue, is you treat the symptom of the problem instead of the source of the problem. Now, I don't want to get banned off Facebook, so I won't say what that source of the problem is, but you can have your guesses.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of, don't want to get Facebooked. What's up, Ash on YouTube says, hey, y'all, you get zucked yet? Wink, wink. It's like he was reading your mind, Frank. He actually typed that before he said it. What's up, Jennifer in Vegas? Thanks for showing up. Benjamin, thanks for being here. Let's see, who else? Who did I miss? Yeah, Dale says, F that. I agreed 100%. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, spooning. You caught the joke. Yeah, no, so I don't know. Now, this is crazy, right? So the facial recognition stuff, this kind of, it falls in line with that. So in America, right, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and I say that tongue-in-cheek because, right, we haven't been that for quite some time, if ever. But in this situation, like, this is an affront on your liberty. You walk down the street and they're scanning your face and running you against some sort of, let's say, facial recognition software, which would be, where would they get that information, Frank? Facial recognition.
From the state. I think that's where you're going with this. All these programs, all these artificial intelligence programs, just processing data endlessly over and over again. And again, you think about this kind of stuff, it doesn't seem bad now, but what if one day you go visit your friend in a bad neighborhood? All of a sudden, you frequent a bad neighborhood, so you're now on the police's attention. They keep track of you. You're going to a bad neighborhood. Your social credit score goes down, all this kind of stuff. The consequences, the potential consequences of this, it's horrifying. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It is an affront to liberty. And funny, right? That word alone, liberty, puts you on watch lists, right? It puts you on the revolutionary type terrorist list. Yeah, I just said it. Liberty. Get over it. Get whoever's out there listening. Get over. Okay. Yeah. No, we haven't been zucked yet. Still working on it. We're still pushing that angle. I'm sure it'll come soon enough. Okay. So here we go. So we got some whack shit happening in basically in the United Kingdom. That's strike 2 UK. What else do you got? No more UK news, I hope. What else we forgot, Frank? That's it for now. Okay.
Briefly mentioned artificial intelligence there. Let's talk about another quick artificial intelligence example of what's going on in the current day. Is this really something to be worried about? Is it a big problem? Let's open up this Talk to Transformer link. So what this is, it's pretty neat, this is OpenAI. So OpenAI is an open company. They make artificial intelligence. And here, what this thing is in particular is you put in a brief writing prompt. You put in some text, and then you say generate, and it finishes the text in line with what you discussed. So you can do some examples live on air there. But let's say you talk about UFOs or an asteroid hitting Earth. It'll take the words you're using and then generate text from it. And this is from OpenAI. And they had recently come out and said they've developed a full thing, something that'll write entire novels, entire news stories. And they're too afraid to release it because of the potential for abuse. So I don't know if you want to do one live here, but this is crazy. This thing literally generates text automatically in real time, and it looks as real as if a person wrote it. Now think about this. What if this starts being used for the news? Journalists nowadays, they're incredibly lazy, so they'll type a few things in there, click the button, boom, put it up on the internet. I wouldn't be surprised if that's being done already. If they're doing this kind of stuff already, just automatically generating the news.
Yeah, no, we talked about that, right? With that fake face thing. So you could have even fake victims and the whole deal. You could set the entire thing up. So fake news actually becomes 130% fake news, not propaganda or spin. Actual freaking fake news. Let's do a quick one here. So Frank gave me a little start to this. So you paste it in, talk to Transformer. It's AI. It says, this is what we're starting with. I saw a flying saucer. A beam of light shot out from the craft. I was paralyzed. It hovered over me and slowly descended to the ground. Okay, now let's complete that text and see what the robot here comes up with. Let's see. Make sure I'm live here so you don't see I'm full of crap. All right, complete the text. Let's see what this robot writes. Here we go. In real time. I've linked it if you guys want to check this out. Okay, so this thing is writing. It's completing the prompt. So it hovered over me and slowly descended to the ground is where we left off. The computer wrote, I could hear the sound of the approaching saucer coming towards me. Suddenly, there was a roar, and there was a huge metallic sound of explosions. In 1999, NASA released a film and DVD entitled The Time Machine. Okay, I don't know where it's going, but there we go. Blah, 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 blah. This thing is... Yeah. You paste some stuff in, and you get some stuff out. Crazy.
Sometimes it's pretty crazy. It goes like off from the theme, but sometimes it's right on point. So there's like example prompts you can use. They tend to be better. There's one in there about an asteroid striking Earth, and every single snippet it generates, it sounds amazing. It's like you could be reading it on space.com. So this is scary. This is real scary, the way this stuff's going. We did the AI show in the past, and my thoughts on AI back then were, it's all a bunch of nonsense. Don't worry about it. They're just faking it. But seeing stuff like this now, I got to eat my words because this is pretty terrifying.
Yeah. So I generated another, and let me read this real quick before we move on. So same thing. It hovered over me and slowly descended to the ground is where we left off with the custom prompt there, and then it continues. I went to looking for my wife. ... The first time I saw that light in my life, I was 10 years old. I had a dream of flying into space with my brothers and a friend in a vehicle, a car. He was wearing a t-shirt with space, the red spacesuit. He was talking to someone with a headset. So anyway, you get it, right? Like I should do some I don't know. Maybe I just became an author by just generating another. Click the blue button. Anyway, I've linked it if you guys want to check it out. Pretty cool stuff. Artificial intelligence and yeah, I don't know. Like I cracked the joke to Frank there. Maybe we could get George R.R. Martin to finish his book with this. Like he just pastes in something and then it's generate and then uses it, runs with it. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the only way the books will ever be finished before that guy croaks is if an AI company takes over and finishes the damn thing, because we're never going to get it. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Is authors could use this kind of stuff to essentially write books for them. So they wouldn't be writing the books; they'd just be editors now. They post in their keywords. I want a romance here, and I want a murder here, and I want a fish in the library, this kind of stuff. And they post it all in, generate an entire story, edit it, and they don't even have to write anymore. So this is crazy, the way the world will change when this becomes mainstream. And they've released the small version, the medium version. This is the medium version, and they have apparently a full version they've yet to release. They said they're not going to, so we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's amazing and terrifying at the same time.
Well, that's because you have to pay for the full version, Frank. Come on. You can't find this on Pirate Bay. So, yeah, there we go. So, we're going to wait for the retail price, and then we'll be able to check it out when the full version gets released. Anyway, pretty crazy stuff, AI, and yeah. Real quick before we move on from the United Kingdom there, because I wanted to point this out real fast about the facial recognition. This is one I dropped last night, Frank. This is what is this? Here we go. Has anybody ever heard of the Ever app? The Ever app. So this is reported by NBCNews.com, and this is the headline: Millions of people uploaded photos to the Ever app. Then the company used them to develop facial recognition tools. That's why I asked the question. And where's this information coming from, Frank? The facial recognition stuff, to round this out? Of course, it's coming from the technocracy. It's coming from all these places that say, oh, we promise we're not going to use your stuff to use it against you and send, killer robots with a picture of your face that you gave to us. No, they would never do that, right? Never in 1,000 years, but maybe 1,001 years. Yeah, I don't know.
That's a big explanation for why Facebook gets so much government money, and they do get government money, and why Instagram was worth so much money when they bought it is because of that data. It's not for the functionality. It's not for sharing cool and slightly risque photographs. It's because they have your face. They can track you. They know where you are. They know what's in the background. They know what your children will look like as a result. They can do all this stuff and process it with artificial intelligence. That's the reason. So it's interesting. People say Facebook's a private company. They can do everything. They say that kind of stuff, but they're getting government money. They're being funded by the CIA. Like, that's out there. So, and same with Alphabet, Google, YouTube, same thing. So there's a reason for that, because they want this stuff. So another aspect of this whole story is those deep fake videos. You mash up two people. You make there was one on Joe Rogan recently where he put Joe Rogan's face on Donald Trump, and it looked exactly like the guy. It's crazy. Like 10, 15 years from now, we're not going to know what's real. It's all going to be it's all going to be fake. And we'll have to rely on stuff like the New York Times, the Standard of Journalism, or the Washington Post, because they would never fake something, right?
No, of course not. The journalistic integrity is way too high with those companies. There's no way they'd ever fake anything. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no. Yeah, anyway, this is where they get the information from, right? So even if it's not a government program, they're scalping it from these private programs, private companies that are being, what would you say, deceptive. They're saying upload your pictures, and then they're scanning your grandpa and getting his face. Thanks for the picture, chump. Yeah, this is crazy stuff. And the world we live in, I tell you what. And this is okay. And then so instead of Congress actually doing something about this, right? Maybe creating laws where you can't do this anymore. No, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Russia some more. This is 2 years later. Dear God. Anyway, Kelly, what's up? Thanks for showing up. Says that's why I would never do the DNA testing. You give up even your DNA. Yeah, exactly. It's terrible. What's up, Gabe? Thanks for showing up. He says Snapchat app is facial recognition. Yeah, right? Exactly. See? So every time you upload a photo anywhere, think about what's happening with it. Do you think they're just happy to have your photograph and host it? No, of course not. Because you have to try and find a way to monetize everything. And if they get a big enough database of faces, they can sell it to who? Maybe those chaps, those nice police chaps on the street in the United Kingdom. Yeah, you get the point. Anyway, okay. We can move on from this. What's up, Mike? He says, gotta go, enjoy the show. Appreciate that. Okay, you got an archive waiting for you. Okay, so anything else here, Frank? Should we talk about more of this? We're about 30 minutes in. We got some time yet if you want to do some additional news. The Chang'e 4, etc.
Yeah, we have to cover that immediately. China's rover update. So open up astronomy.com. China's Yutu-2 rover finds ancient rocks in Moon's biggest crater. So again, the Chang'e 4 lander rover. I'm not even sure of the terminology yet. We should know this. Oh, the Chang'e 4 mission and the Yutu-2 rover landed on the dark side of the moon in January. We haven't heard a single thing about it. They took a few pictures and moved around. But apparently they were doing something up there. So they landed in this huge crater. And again, we have a video on that. It's this giant crater on the far side of the moon. And we kind of thought there was something interesting nearby. You can check the YouTube channel for that. But in the crater, what they've been doing, and this is the update, is they've been looking at these rocks, looking at the rocks within the crater, and looking at their mineral composition and what's there, what's on the surface versus what's being dredged up by this impact. And essentially the long and the short of it is that material from inside the moon is on the surface. And so they've used this to say that the hypothesis that the moon formed with an impact to Earth. So there's two hypotheses about how the moon formed. One is it formed naturally, right? When the planet kind of aggregated together due to gravity, Earth's planet. The moon also aggregated together naturally. But here they're saying the opposite, is that the planet appeared, Earth formed, fully formed, it had no moon, and then something else impacted it. A huge planetoid impacted the Earth and then spit off the moon, and that's how the moon formed. So they've kind of proved that, looking at these craters and the soil composition and the rocks and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty neat.
It is. So they're actually doing something. So they've been up there for quite a while now. So we're saying they actually looked at some rocks and they've determined that a giant asteroid hit the moon a long, long time ago and kind of turned it inside out a little bit. That's kind of what we're looking at here, right? This is the startling find at Chang'e 4. So Chang'e 4 is the mission, and the lander, the Yutu-2 is the actual rover itself. So we were calling the rover Chang'e 4, but that's not actually the case. But yeah, so that's what they discovered, right? They've turned this thing. They said this huge thing smashed into the moon maybe 1 million years ago or a couple million, and it turned part of it inside out, right? And is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, essentially. And there's also the side effect that there's a huge amount of resources in the moon, metals and minerals and all sorts of crazy stuff that we didn't think we'd find there. But it's on the dark side because an asteroid hit it and dredged it up, so to speak. So if there is a moon mission planned, we can land on the moon, drill down, and get all sorts of aluminum and calcium and all sorts of crazy stuff that's just buried beneath the surface. And again, it does confirm the hypothesis that 4 billion years ago, a planetoid impacted the Earth and actually formed the moon. So, good job. Again, I found myself eating my words twice today because looks like they were doing something.
Yeah, something's happening. That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. So, okay. So, all right. Maybe they're going to actually release some more information. How long did that take, though? It was like 2 months, right? Or 3 months or something like that. I don't know. It's been a long-ass time.
January the 2nd. And
5 months.
Yeah. So we can move on to this second article. And again, this makes me instantly suspicious again. So open up space.com. Good night, Chang'e 4. China's probe on the moon's far side naps for the lunar night. So what's going on here? Apparently, on the dark side of the moon, because this lander is powered by solar panels, they need light. So apparently they're entering a season in which it'll be dark on the dark side of the moon for a whole 28 days, I believe. I don't know that that's true. I kind of looked into it, and they didn't really substantiate it in the article. But essentially, this is saying the Chang'e 4 has gone bye-bye for a long time. It's going to go to sleep. And again, that makes me kind of suspicious. Is what's going on here is they make this wonderful discovery. There's no updates. Good on them for discovering this thing. But now it's going to sleep. So is it going off on its second mission? Is it going to go investigate what's in that crater nearby? I have no idea, but it's kind of weird that they're putting it to sleep. That doesn't make sense to me.
That just buys an entire month to do whatever shenanigans they're doing up there. Yeah, Dale says, BS, the moon's artificial. You've been looking too much. Who's that guy? Who's the dude? Is that, I don't even know. There's so many outliers, let's say. Is that Corey Good that says the moon's a hologram?
Yeah, a bunch of people say, David Icke as well, saying it's a spaceship up there. And, I kind of buy some of that stuff. It does make a lot of sense. But until we get there, we won't know for sure. That's the thing. So you can believe the moon is a hologram. You can believe the moon's a giant spaceship. You can believe the moon is just a moon. Until we get there, we'll never know, right? We got to get there and find out.
Yeah, Philip says, Philip on Facebook says, I'm glad to get some sort of new info. They've been quiet for too long, but I think there's something more going on than what they're describing up there, of course. Right. Sherry says, how do they know what hit it? Yeah, that's a pretty good point. They don't, obviously. Okay, let's see. Christopher, here we go. It's hard enough to feed my 4 kids the way prices are now. I can't imagine if they get higher. Oh, you're talking about Trump and tariffs. Yeah, don't worry. It's leverage. It's okay. This isn't, yeah. Anyway, okay, so let's see. Some more comments. Yeah, okay. We'll read these as we go. What's up, Devin? Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. And, yeah, all right. All right. So anything else on this, Frank, on Chang'e 4, other than we're going to keep watch of this and see what else clunks out. So it was the beginning of January, and now we have 5 full months later plus, and we have this. So, the first actual data to come out of this mission. So I wonder what's been happening up there for 5 freaking months. So yeah, there we go. Anything else there, Frank?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It always comes back to this with every single topic. Talk about Bigfoot, talk about aliens, UFOs, talk about government conspiracies. It always comes back to one thing, the lack of transparency. If they were providing daily mission updates, the rover drove 14 meters to this rock, and it drilled in the rock for the entire day. Next update, the rover stayed at the rock and continued drilling. If they had that kind of stuff, if they had that transparency up there, the world would be so simple, wouldn't it? It would be amazing. Just a little bit of transparency goes a long way. And of course, this dead silence makes you suspicious, makes you wonder what's going on. It makes you paranoid.
Yeah, strap on the tinfoil hats. I'm gonna need tinfoil boots soon because who knows what's gonna happen to my feet. Okay, so while we're on the moon, real quick before we move on to Stanton Friedman here. So this other one, Frank, again, I posted this last night. So this is stuff.co.New Zealand, and I wanted to point this out to illustrate one more time about how ignorant people are and how we think we know everything. Now, here's the headline: the moon is cooling, shrinking, and has moonquakes, NASA finds, right? So think about that. It's our closest celestial body, and we had no idea any of this was going on until recently. So pretty much everything we know about space, we claim to know about space, is through the human hubris filter. And that means that we just don't really know what the hell we're talking about. And we, again, like, no offense to NASA and the scientists out there. Well, okay, some minor offense to them. But there's so much information and data on all these different things in the universe that we really have no freaking clue here. Come on, guys. It's like a shot in the dark on everything, just about. I mean, we can take data and we can surmise something from the data, but it still doesn't mean, like Sherry said, we still don't know what hit the moon 2 million years ago, whatever the hell that was. You can assume it was an asteroid, right? But I mean, yeah, kind of, yeah. So anyway, moon is cooling, shrinking, and has moonquakes, NASA finds. What do you think about that, Frank?
Yeah, I read into this a little bit, and the startling thing about this, the amazing thing about this, is that this implies that the center of the moon, it's warm, it's hot. There might be molten rock in the very center. There might be a nuclear engine, for the spaceship theory people out there. But the center is hot, so we could drill down there, do some geothermal stuff, get some energy from inside the moon. That's amazing. And again, it goes against the last 100 years of thinking. They thought it was a cold, dead rock up in space, and that's it. But again, this thing, it's warm inside. As it cools down, it shrinks, because stuff shrinks when it cools down. And the surface is cracking because of that shrinkage. Pretty neat. Pretty neat that we're finally learning about stuff. For the last 60 years, it's just been nothing. Nothing from NASA, nothing from anyone. And in the last, I think, only 2-3 years, we're learning water on the moon, water on Mars, the moon's warm, methane, and all sorts of stuff on Mars. It's an amazing time to be alive.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just extrapolate that just a little bit. The core of the moon is warm, right? So just like in the Mariana Trench on Earth under the ocean, there are things that survive down there because they're next to these geothermal vents, right? Where it's supposed to be too cold for life and all these other things. But they hang out, these particular life forms hang out down there where the warmth is. So I wonder, right? So on our closest celestial neighbor, maybe under the crust, are we looking at life possibilities?
That's crazy talk. Come on now. This is water cooler talk. I'm never speaking to you ever again.
Yeah,
No, that's
exactly.
interesting. I never even thought about that. That there could be. Why not? It's warm inside the moon. The moon hit the Earth. So something. This is how it went. A huge planetoid hit the Earth. The ejection from the Earth formed the moon. And then the moon turned into the spherical shape that it is. It cooled down. But yeah, when that first planetoid hit the Earth, something could have come with it. You never know. So there might be bacteria, there might be fungus, there might be something we can't even categorize surviving inside the moon. Or little gremlins, who knows? So
yeah, exactly. Beneath the mantle of the moon there. So yeah, I mean it's amazing. So think about that. Think about how everything, just with this one little article, everything changed about the moon, right? Like we've been there. Supposedly we know all these things about it. Supposedly we've got telescopes on it all the time. Supposedly we've got a lunar reconnaissance orbiter. There's a Chinese rover on the dark side. Like there's tons of stuff, right? Like we should know a shit ton about the moon, and somehow, some way, we don't know anything about the moon. Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. Anyway, that was kind of the point I wanted to illustrate. It's like, as much as we think we know, it seems like every single day, every single week, something clunks out that really illustrates we don't know shit. And here we are doing this show because definitely, for sure, Frank and I don't really know shit. So yeah, I'll speak for myself. Sorry, Frank. But yeah, okay. Yeah, anyway.
No, and I think that's what we're learning as we do it, is that we'll admit that we don't know anything. But these people out there, NASA in particular, they say they know everything. And every single day, it turns out they're wrong. So at least we're admitting we don't know anything. As soon as they admit that, maybe they'll start getting stuff done. Maybe they'll actually be effective. So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. And so we got people in chat. Todd says the moon is not shrinking. That's total bullshit. But it's basically it's not necessarily shrinking. It kind of ebbs and flows, kind of like the ocean tides would. So it kind of shrinks, and then the mantle breaks, and then it kind of warms up again, and then like it's that, right? So anyway, okay, whatever. Mike says,
pardon me. I think a better word to use would be settling. The moon is settling, so that doesn't mean shrinking, but that means it's forming its final cold dead shape.
Right, exactly. So anyway, it's the semantics of how you describe it, but I think the major point there is we really don't know what the hell we're talking about, and so we take the basis of everything we know is based on what we previously know. But if everything we know changes on like a day-to-day basis, you see what I mean, right? Does that make sense, or am I just confusing myself? It means we don't know shit is really what it means. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, what's up, Latasha? Thanks for showing up. Yeah, Todd says Apollo 18. Sherry says all the pics from observatory have zero satellites anywhere. Okay, and yeah, and then Todd says it's been exactly the same for thousands of years. How do you know that? The moon? How do you know that? How do you know? Anyway, yeah. And Michelle says the older I get, the less I know. Right? I think if you're doing it right, that's probably the way it works. The older you get, the less you realize you know. Okay, so all right. So let's shall we do Stanton Friedman? What do you think there? So
no, we got to do a quick news update on Tom Lasange from Blink 181. Let's open up. So again, Tom Lasange from Blink 181 opened up "Give Me Your Money to the Stars Academy," and essentially took people's money. He released these 3 UFO videos. Well, here's an analysis, and we won't go through the whole story, but essentially there's been some questions. There's been a lot of questions on the validity of these videos, where they came from, why they were even released in the first place, all this kind of stuff. Let's open up Mick West, gimbal UFO footage, and essentially he looks at this stuff, he analyzes it. It's 2 minutes, play the entire thing, then let's talk about it.
Mick West. What is this? This is YouTube? No. Oh, yeah, I see it. It is YouTube. Okay. It is Mick West on YouTube. I had the right one. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, actually, let's take 15 minutes and go into this, Frank, and then just do the last hour on Friedman and everything else. So we may as well. This is important. So let's take a little bit of time and go through this. It seems like we're rushing and we shouldn't be. Okay. So, let's play this and see what this looks like. So this is a gimbal UFO footage. This was by To the Stars Academy, of course, and this guy is, let's see what he's talking about. Action.
The gimbal UFO video is one of the most famous UFO videos in recent years, with many TV shows and countless discussions online. It's a cool video appearing to show a saucer-shaped craft with strange aura flying at high speed and then rotating in a way that amazes the pilots watching. Right from the start, I thought this shows an infrared glare of a distant plane, rotating not because the plane is rotating, but because of an artifact of the camera gimbal system, which is why the Navy gave the video the name gimbal. On Metabunk, we gathered a lot of evidence to support this. We showed that glares can rotate independently of the image when tracked on a gimbaled camera. We showed that the aura was just a common infrared artifact. We showed that the target need not be moving very fast, as the motion of the background was just parallax. But one thing eluded us: the saucer-shaped glare on a comparable infrared camera. I gave it a go with a little camera I had and got something similar, but infrared videos of distant jets are not that common and tend to just show blobs. But finally, we've got a good example of a similar shape, thanks to Dave Flatch. Dave has been looking into this for a while, trying to duplicate the effects using FLIR equipment very similar to that used in the gimbal video. One of the last videos he put up shows him following a small jet, and when he switches to infrared we get this shape, a saucer shape with protrusions similar to the gimbal shape. To get this shape he just had to nudge the focus slightly. The shape seemed to be a result of diffraction effects along a light path of the camera, somewhat related to bokeh. You can see this diffraction in play as it goes through the trees. And of course, the shape of the infrared glare looks nothing like the actual plane. So now we've got all the pieces. We know the apparent motion of a plane relative to clouds could just be a parallax. We know the glow is just something that happens around infrared glare. We know that infrared glare can rotate independently of the view in a gimbal system. And now we know the glare can look like a saucer with some spikes. So is it solved? Not 100%, but we do have a very reasonable explanation for what the pilot saw. An infrared glare rotated because of the gimbal in a video titled Gimbal.
Whoa. Okay. Well, how about that? And this is actual science, right? Like this is these are the things that should be happening to maybe look into some of this stuff, and that's amazing. That's amazing. So we're saying that. Okay. Now let's back up one sec. And if this guy's what he's saying is true, and this is just some sort of like a artifact of the technology that we're using, right? Like an actual whatever. It's literally nothing. So explain to me why this has to be a government release with chain of custody, which of course is foggy and hasn't been proven. We covered that a ways back. And if you want more, go check out the blackvault.com. John Greenwald Jr. is all over this. He kicks their ass daily, and kicks To the Stars Academy's ass daily, to clarify. And yeah, I don't know. So if this is all possibly explained by something so innocuous here, why do we need $1 billion raised and the chain of custody from the government and all this other business? I don't know. I'm confused now. I'm more confused than I ever was, and this was confusing to begin with.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. There's a few unsolved issues. Why is there this big program, this ATIP program? Why was it there in the first place? The second issue is, why did this thing not appear in visible light? When they shifted the camera in the video we just saw, you could see the jet. When they shifted the camera in the gimbal video, you couldn't see anything, right? Nothing in visible light. You could only see it in infrared. And the final point is the pilot. The pilot was saying, whoa, look at that thing, dude. There's so many of them. Wow, wow, wow. That kind of commentary. So there is a few unresolved issues. Overall, though, I think this is amazing. Again, just as you said, this is looking at, and this is probably Stanton Friedman would have loved this. This is looking at what's available, doing analysis on it, not trying to come to any conclusion, but he shows there that if you rotate that camera, you get that same rotating effect. This is good. Yes, it debunks Tom Lazange from Blink 181 and Give Me Your Money Academy. It kind of debunks that a little bit. But overall, I think it's pretty good. We need this for everything. We need analysis. We need real analysis, not, wow, that's amazing. Now, in terms of the audio, right, we've had a couple of people saying they don't sound like that. Pilots don't sound like that. They would never sound like that on the radio. So I think that does explain it. What if that audio is fake? What if that audio is just put right over top of it? It's not real to begin with. And there we go. We have a picture of a jet. Someone's taken that, overlaid some audio, sent it to this guy, and this guy's using this in a Richard Doty situation, and he's being fooled by the government to start this UFO disclosure program that's all based on just misleading imagery to begin with. I don't know. That's what it's starting to look like. Starting to look like that.
Yeah, exactly. Got some good comments here on YouTube. Two-headed Tasmanian, what's up, says, that doesn't account for the pilot's testimony. I think they would know the difference between a plane and something unidentifiable. But it's not a plane, so it's according to this, it's possible that it's some sort of artifact based on the technology, based on the FLIR camera and some other things. Again, I've linked this video if you guys want to check it out, watch it yourself full screen. It is right there. Check it out yourself. Good comment, though, because you're right. Again, one thing here doesn't disprove all the other things. And like Frank said, like I pointed out, there are some problems here. It doesn't solve everything, so there's that. And then William on YouTube also says, a reason the government wanted to get a good laugh at the UFO community, right? And so that kind of leads us back to, I agree, right? Maybe that's a possibility as well, that maybe this is some sort of disinformation campaign, right? To make the UFO community look foolish a little bit, or and maybe Tom DeLonge is complicit, maybe he's not. Who knows, right? So again, there's so much going on here, so many moving parts, and the good news is there's a lot of good people on this, okay? And so maybe the video we just watched is some sort of disinformation campaign. Who knows, right? Like maybe it's like let's go with the Russian narrative and say that the Russians made this video to make Tom DeLonge look like a fool, right? Fine, whatever, right? Like, or some kid in mama's basement, whatever, right? You get the point. It can be done. So again, a lot of data points, a lot of information to look at, and we can just wait and see what information clunks out. But like I said, there are good people on this. So we're going to keep an eye on this, and as information comes out, we will cover it. So there we go. Good comments. Anything else there, Frank? As I catch up on some more?
The more analysis, the better. And that's same thing with speech. The more speech, the better. The way to fight bad speech is more speech, right? Same thing with this. The more analysis of these videos, the more information we get, the better it is. Now, going back a bit, so let's have a history lesson, a brief history lesson. There was a guy named Richard Doty, right? And he was living next to an air base. This was back in the 70s, I believe. We've covered this on the show, but the details are foggy. Essentially, he saw some weird lights, and he started looking at them, photographing them. And then some guy who saw that Richard Doty was recording these weird lights, a guy from the military base came by and said, "Oh, that's a UFO." And he essentially tricked this guy into thinking that these were UFOs, the aliens were coming, all this. And the guy went crazy. And we played this clip. It's too bad we can't dig it up, but eventually he ended up in an asylum. He went so crazy. So the government trolls people. The government convinces people that UFOs are real when it was really just a test flight, just to F with them, just to make them seem slightly insane. So they've done this before. They could be doing this again. It could be part of this disinformation campaign. You got to keep that in mind. So again, look up Richard Doty or go back to that episode we covered it. It could easily be something like that.
Yeah, and so again, like we always say, one new piece of evidence does not change the entire painting, right? It just can't. So you have to kind of take it into account of everything else as well, but it doesn't change the entire landscape. So you have to take that other stuff into account, and and think that maybe we're being fooled. Maybe they're taking our tax dollars and twisting them against us, and this is disinformation campaign type stuff with either a complicit or a non-complicit party, but. Right? You see, like I said, lots of moving parts here. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on this, and as things develop, we will report. I also want to mention real quick, so on the screen here, if you guys are watching, we're currently orbiting, what is this? It's an exoplanet. I wanted to point this out in case anybody was curious about what this was, and I'll try and do this in the future as we visit other exoplanets. This is Kepler 275d, and it's, of course, not the actual planet. It's a rendition. It's a artist generation of what is probably out there. So anyway, Kepler 275d, there we go. I looked it up if we want additional information later or never. But yeah, anyway, pretty cool stuff. And gas giant, and yeah, here we go. That's what we're orbiting now. So, okay. Anything else about that, Frank, as we roll?
Yeah, we can move on from that. Let's go into Stanton Friedman. Again, he passed away, so let's open up the cbc.ca. He was a Canadian, I believe, Stanton Friedman. Yes, he was. Stanton Friedman, famed UFO researcher, dead at 84. And so this guy kept giving talks, he was still booked for talks when he died. He passed away of a heart attack at the Toronto airport. I believe that's how you say it. And this is what's important about him. He was a nuclear physicist by training. So he had all this science, this logic kind of baked in his mind. He wasn't one of these new age people. UFOs are contacting me. They're having babies with me. They're taking me to their planet. He wasn't like that. He looked at the evidence available, did analysis, and actually tried to go through all the information and try to prove that these things were real. And near the end of his days, he was convinced. Looking at Majestic 12, looking at Bob Lazar, looking at Project Blue Book Special Report number 14, which we'll get into in a bit. He looked at all these things, did the analysis, and was convinced by the information available. And I don't think he ever saw one himself. Like, he was never an experiencer of a UFO himself. But he was into it. Just looking at the information, doing the analysis, he was convinced that it was all real. So he's passed away. They say in here, he did his homework. Friedman was an accomplished writer, publishing dozens of papers about UFOs and writing several books. So he went through all that information. His qualifications, intelligence, and diligence made him irreplaceable in the research field, his wife said. So he did his homework on the issue. And you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of people reading through dry, boring documents nowadays, do you? It's people like us looking at these crazy UFO videos and not really concluding anything, whereas this guy went and looked at the government documents, read through them, called people, made inquiries, looked at the science, tried to relate it all together. So doing real research. To my mind, we had Alan Hynek in the original Project Blue Book. Again, a very similar type of character, really into it, really doing real science. Then we had Stanton Friedman, of course, doing the same thing. And I think someone taking up the mantle, and I know we love this guy, but Black Vault, John Greenwald Jr., he's doing the same thing, looking through dry government documents to try to prove this stuff or disprove it. So these type of characters, they don't get a lot of press because, of course, they're not being taken up to the alien spaceship. They're not being, experimented on. There's no abductions in their history. All they really do is look at these dry government documents. But that's where the real information comes from, is these dry documents, not the videos, not the abduction reports, not the regression. It's people like this, I think, that will really lead us to the answer.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing about Stanton Friedman. So I was going through some of the information, right? And I said to Frank, I was like, dude, we should have done this earlier. It's a shame that we're actually doing a show on this guy and talking about a lot of the things that he was into and a lot of the information that he went through and some of his amazing statements before he passed away. It's unfortunate that we ended up doing it this way because as I was looking through the information, the data is amazing. Like the guy, so if anybody's looked at Project Blue Book, like Frank said, J. Allen Hynek and that whole bit, right? There are thousands and thousands of pages, okay? And probably at least hundreds, probably thousands of cases that they looked at. And so the actual data available from the Freedom of Information and some of the documents that have come out since are it's mind-boggling, the amount of data that we're looking at here, right? So it would take us probably months or years to go through all of it. But this is what he did. He pulled this stuff up and he looked at it and he followed up on Alan Hynek's work, J. Allen Hynek, and some. Yeah, it's amazing. Like he's one of the guys that kind of lends credence to the ufology community because there's so many Corey Goods and David Ikes. If you're out there listening, sorry, but a lot of the stuff you say is out there, and it doesn't. It's more clickbaity and less based in reality for many people. And I'm not saying what they're saying is wrong. I'm just saying. Show me the charts, right? Show me the graphs. Show me the studies that have been done. And that's exactly what Stanton Friedman did. And yeah, it's amazing. So the more I looked, the more I was like, wow, this is a shame that we're coming to at this point when he passed away. But yeah, so we're going to do it anyway. And it is a loss for the community and for the world at large because, again, if you listen to the show, we think this stuff's important. One way or the other, fake, disinformation, whatever that's real, whatever it happens to be, it's important to look at, right, and get to the bottom of this. And so, yeah, I was a little bit shocked at how on point this guy was, every single thing I looked at. So, yeah, there's that. There's just my take. Yeah, pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, there's a little image macro here. When I open up that, it's a picture of him with a quote of his over top. There is no doubt in my mind, after 37 years of study and investigation, that the evidence is overwhelming that planet Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled vehicles whose origin is extraterrestrial. There are no acceptable arguments against flying saucers reality. Only people who either haven't studied the relevant data or have a strong will not to believe the Earth is at the bottom of the heap sociologically and technologically in our local galactic neighborhood. So there you go. Direct quote from him. That's a pretty strong statement. he was sure. By the end of his career, he was absolutely certain that we're being visited and that we're at the bottom of the heap of the sociologically and technologically galactic neighborhood. So we're the monkeys in the trees, as I think is what he's saying there. And there are things out there that are much more advanced than we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think the reason you're here and you're listening to this is you agree wholeheartedly. And again, I have a special admiration for this type of person. So again, it goes to this guy, Stanton Friedman, of course. It goes to people like John Greenwald Jr. that are very detailed and meticulous in looking at the documents and actually doing research on the research that has been done. Right? It's a talent. It's not one that I have personally, and it's why I admire people like this, because it's painstaking. It's you have to take the time and go through this stuff and do additional side research, and it literally is a ton of freaking work. And I'm not good at it because I'm not a patient guy. I'm just not. It's not I'm more of a hip shooter. I'm sure if you guys listen, you probably realize that. But it's people that are different from you, at least to me myself, that do things that you don't do well. To me, that they're like on a pedestal type thing, right? Because I'm like, wow, this guy spent all of these years combing through this data. And as we'll get into, you'll see some of the stuff that he said in the past, and it's amazing. Like in this little graphic, I did link it if you want to check it out. But there it is. He says it. There's no doubt in my mind after 37 years of studying investigation that the evidence is overwhelming. That the planet Earth is being investigated by intelligently controlled vehicles whose origin is extraterrestrial. So there's more on the bottom, but yeah, amazing stuff. We're gonna get into that in a sec, and yeah. Where do we go from here, Frank?
So this guy was trained in nuclear physics. That was how he started out. So he was a very smart, scientific individual. And he kind of stumbled into this whole UFO area with a chance meeting. And he met someone who was at the Roswell crash site. So let's play that. Open up the start of the genesis of his UFO kind of experience and why he was interested in this stuff. Let's open up the truth about the Roswell UFO crash, recovered alien bodies, and materials. And this is an interview about how Stanton Friedman stumbled onto the character, Jesse Marcel, who was at the UFO crash site and picked up some of these UFO wreckage materials.
Okay, got it. Action.
And play it for a couple minutes, then pause, then we'll finish it up.
Well, okay. I stumbled onto Roswell entirely. I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to promote my lecture that night at Louisiana State University. I was supposed to do 3 interviews at a local television station. This is in 1978, a long time ago. And I did the first 2, and the third reporter was nowhere to be found. Didn't have cell phones all over at the time. The station manager's giving me coffee. He's looking at his watch. He knows the people that brought me there. He knew I had other things to do. And out of the blue, he says, the guy you ought to talk to is Jesse Marcel. Brilliant investigator that I am, I said, who's he? He was the duty officer, July 6th, I guess it was, 1947, and he had a call from the sheriff that a rancher had come in with some strange wreckage. And the sheriff thought he might be interested in looking at this stuff. The sheriff and the military work closely together. And his boss, Colonel Blanchard, tells him and the counterintelligence corps guy to follow the rancher out. He says he's got this stuff, the whole field covered with this small pieces of stuff that you could crumple up and would uncrumple on its own. You couldn't tear it. Extraordinarily strong and about the weight of foil. This is weird.
Yeah, of course.
And so he comes back with this stuff. The boss man sends him to take some of this on one of their B-29s to the headquarters of the 8th Air Force. Now, when the story comes out, Army captures flying saucer and ranch in Roswell region, and the next day, General empties Roswell saucer. And that was the end of it, really. There was a cover-up, no question about it. And one of the other people in one of the pictures that was taken by the Fort Worth paper, this is over in Fort Worth, had General Ramey and his adjutant, Colonel Dubose, who later became a general. I thought he might still be alive. Blanchard was dead. Ramey was dead. I couldn't talk to them. But I found retired General Dubose.
Right.
And he told me that he took the call from Ramey's boss from Washington. He was acting.
Okay, we're going to just play this through because this is too good. So we got about 60 seconds left or so. But yeah, anything there, Frank, while we take a quick breather?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out something. Listen to what he described. He met the guy by chance, and then he interviewed and contacted him, got in touch with him. Then he said, hey, who were your superiors? Who was on this site? Who was above you? And then he started calling those people up. Call this guy up, he's dead. Call that guy up, he's dead. Oh, this guy, well, he's still alive. Let's go to him and get some information. It's a real investigative reporter, isn't it? He's going out, he's talking to people. This is real journalism. And they mocked him for it his entire career. You know, they laughed at him. They said, oh, you're a crazy UFO guy. Bill Nye made fun of him. We'll get into that in a bit. But this is real journalism. And look at what we have nowadays. Just I can't stop swearing when I think about journalists. But we have people who sit on Twitter and just make stupid posts about stupid stuff, and they don't do any of this kind of stuff. This is amazing. This is good stuff. Let's keep going.
Agreed, and I do particularly appreciate the link to Roswell here. So we'll play this out, and then we'll continue with Stanton Friedman here.
Head of the Air Force Strategic Air Command, the name changed, but and he gave him 3 orders. DuBose told me this, standing 3 feet away from me. Send some of that wreckage up here today with one of your Colonel Couriers. Get the press off our back. I don't care how you do it. And I don't want you ever to talk about it again. That's an order. Do I need to put it in writing, Colonel? No, sir. When a 2-star general tells a colonel what to do, he does it. They're both West Pointers. You know. So there's no question in my mind. Roswell represented the recovery of a crashed alien saucer plus ETs on board.
There you go. No question in his mind. And again, he's not David Icke. So I'm taking the source. I'm inclined to believe him. Definitely good stuff there.
Yeah, so he's really attributed with bringing Roswell more into the public eye. Like, people knew about it, people are talking about it, but until he actually went and did this investigation, started writing books, talking about it, there wasn't a lot out there. And then he did this research, and he really brought it to the forefront. So again, this is why people love this guy. And listening to the way he does things, the scientific way he does things, you can see why. Because that's real information. It's not crazy talk like most of the stuff out there nowadays.
Yeah, and there's tons of that. So we don't need to point you in the direction. You can go find that yourselves just by basically doing nothing, because it'll come find you. Yeah. Okay. All right. So he's got the link to Roswell here. He's an actual scientist. He's not some jackass journalist just kind of trying to read some paper and decide that he wants to debunk it. He's an actual scientist. So what else about this guy? We have a link to Roswell now. He's talking about the actual extraterrestrial craft and the famous foil that you could crumple and it uncrumples, right? There's some sort of alien material, and yeah, right. It kind of it falls in line with some of the actual mythology here, is what he's talking about. So what else about this guy, Frank?
He also looked into Project Blue Book Special Report number 14. Now, what that is it's a summary of Project Blue Book essentially, and we got the PDF here. We'll pull it up, peruse through it in a bit. But let's open up Paul Gimbel, Stan Friedman on Project Blue Book Special Report number 14. Play the first couple minutes, and then we'll see about continuing.
Okay, let's see. I got to find this first. Which one is this?
Yeah, so again, brief refresher. The military conducted Project Blue Book, which was an investigation of all these UFO sightings. If you don't know that, I don't blame you, because that television show nowadays that they're playing in the History Channel is a bunch of nonsense, pure propaganda. We've kind of talked about that before. Made all the people involved look silly and ridiculous, and there's crazy conspiracies and shadowy figures, and no, none of that happened. So it was a real investigation looking at the sightings, and we'll pull up the report in a second, but this is Stan Friedman's take on reading the Report 14, which is the summary of the entire thing, where they did stats, analysis, all this kind of stuff.
Okay, and if you guys haven't looked at this, we'll look at it in a sec. Like Frank said, we have the PDF here. But if you're curious and find yourself with some time and you want to look into this, I highly encourage you to go check out the actual Project Blue Book files. Like, this is the stuff that J. Allen Hynek himself actually worked on, and of course, battled with the government to get information out or not, or what have you, right? And that this is where the famous swamp gas came from, and where the famous ball lightning, and all these other famous things that UFOs have been explained away as came from these reports. So here we go. So this is Stan Friedman on Project Blue Book Special Report number 14. Action.
4 reasons, incidentally, the 4 tools of the debunkers. First is 4 rules for debunkering. What the public doesn't know, I'm not going to tell them. Don't bother me with the facts. My mind's made up. The third is, if you can't attack the data, attack the people. It's easier. And the fourth, of course, is do your research by proclamation, not by investigation. And to illustrate this, Carl Sagan used to say, there are interesting UFO sightings that aren't reliable. There are reliable UFO sightings that aren't interesting, but there are no interesting and reliable ones, which sounds like a logical sort of thing, and said with great seriousness. The only trouble is, there's no references, no data, and it's totally false. The biggest study ever done on flying saucers, which is the one that finding a privately published version of really turned me around about it, Project Blue Book Special Report number 14. I've been interested for a couple of years. I stumbled across it at the University of California, Berkeley Library. Information on 3,201 sightings. Categorization of every sighting. Quality.
Let me point out, he said 3,201, right? So this isn't a hip shooting guy. This is a data-driven guy that knows exactly how many reports are in that file. I said hundreds or thousands. He said 3,201. Okay, anyway, just want to keep it rolling.
Quality evaluation of every sighting. Cross comparisons between the unknowns, which are the only interesting ones, and the knowns. 240 some charts, tables, graphs, and maps. I was in data heaven when I found this thing. But it also had the press release that went with it. Secretary of the Air Force. Now, this report was never publicly distributed by the Air Force. The press release didn't mention the title of it, because if they said Blue Book Special Report 14, somebody said, what do you mean 14? What happened to 1 through 13? Oh, well, they were all classified. Nobody wanted to say that. They didn't say who did the work, so you couldn't go back to anybody in the press. Quite remarkable. It was done by Battelle Memorial Institute in Columbus, Ohio. Very well received.
Okay, so there we go. That's a couple minutes. Anything on that, Frank? Want to parse that or keep on chucking? What do you think?
Yeah, a couple of things there immediately. Look how subtle the cover-ups are. Don't mention the name of the report, because if people don't know the full name of the report, they can't find the report. And if they can't find the report, they can't read the report and go through all the evidence available. And so if you do just a subtle thing like that, don't mention the title. It's amazing the effects it can have. People, oh, this is just nonsense. It's silly. Does it even exist? I don't even know. You know, these people, the low-effort journalism, just as a result of that, just don't mention the title. Anyway, keep going with that. It's pretty interesting. Finish it off, or you can cut it beforehand. But this report, this special Project 14, it's amazing, the data that's in here. And we'll get to it in a second.
Okay, let's see what else he has to say about that, and go.
Respected research and development firm. Under contract to Project Blue Book, which was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, which isn't far from Columbus, as a matter of fact. And Battelle's connection with the program was still classified at that time. And I had dealings with them and the Foreign Technology Division, which is where Blue Book was myself later on. So I know something about that interaction. Anyway, in this biggest study ever done, several important things. One, it isn't mentioned in 13 anti-UFO books, even though all the authors were aware of it. What the public doesn't know, I'm not going to tell them. Second, if you looked at the categorization, 21% of the sightings couldn't be explained, unknowns. But in the press release, which got very wide distribution, with a supposed summary that doesn't include any of the data from the report, despite all these tables, charts, and graphs, if you look at the press release, the Secretary of the Air Force said, quote, on the basis of this report, we believe that no objects such as those properly described as flying saucers have overflown the United States. Even the unknown 3% could have been identified as conventional phenomena or illusions if more complete observational data had been available. That seems very straightforward.
Okay, let's cut that. We can watch this guy talk all day.
The audio there is pretty bad, but you get the point. Is they have this wonderful report, this whole summary of the whole Project Blue Book. 21% of these things that they saw completely unknown. They had no idea what they were. Then they release this to the media. They don't give them the title. They keep the title away from the media, so the media can only look at the press release in which the general says only 3% of these things were unknown. Right? So 21 versus 3, obviously that's a lot less. The trickery, the fuckery going on here is crazy. And so this guy gets this report, gets his hands on it, goes through it. It's amazing. He talks about it. Again, this is why he's much loved by the community. Yeah.
Okay. And so there we go. Reading the comments, guys. So we are live tonight. The phones are down, so if you want to contribute to the show, the way to do it tonight is just chat it up, put it out there. We're reading on Mixer, on YouTube, and Facebook, and all the other places, right? Twitch, we're reading as well. So if you're out there watching on any of those places, go ahead and drop it into chat. We'll read it as we roll. And yeah, we're talking about Stanton Friedman tonight. So he unfortunately passed away on Monday night, and he's got a lot of interesting things. So in particular, now this is from Project Blue Book and the famous J. Allen Hynek, report number 14. Now what about that in particular, Frank? I'll pull up this PDF, or what do you think? Something else?
Let's go through this real quick. Again, this is kind of a fun read. It really is, because this is real UFO information. This isn't Randy Kramer, saying, "Oh, I was fighting alien on Mars." This isn't Corey Good with his secret space program, all this kind of stuff. Sure, that stuff is entertaining. Sure, I love that stuff. It's so fun to watch, so fun to think about those interviews. But this is where the real information is. And unfortunately, it's in a dry document. You can't search it. It's not indexed for, searching. But let's go to pages 17 through 55. And you can just scroll through them, and you'll see. So they've done a summary. They've categorized all these things, all these sightings, where they were. They've categorized them as unknown, astronomical phenomena, aircraft, balloon, insufficient information, or other. Those 5 categories. And so when he was referring to unknown, that wasn't other. That wasn't a bird. That wasn't insufficient information, where they just couldn't tell what it was. It wasn't a balloon. Wasn't an aircraft. Wasn't the moon or an astronomical phenomena. So this category of unknown sightings, it's huge. In all these sightings, the amount of unknowns were absolutely insane. And so that's what he was talking about there in the clip. But you can scroll through these, looking at these charts and documents, when the sightings occurred, the monthly distributions, where they occurred, what counties, what states they occurred in. It's quite fascinating to go through this. So if you do have time, take a read. It's enlightening. And if you compare this document here. Look at this real information. They do stats on these things too. So they statistically prove that there were more unknowns during this month of the year than the other month of the year. And there was balloons during the summer, but not the winter. Real stats, real information. Compare that to that goddamn TV show on the History Channel. It's a disservice to the field. It's a disservice to this whole UFO thing. Shadowy figures, crazy conspiracy theories. They're making it seem so stupid and so ridiculous and so out of this world that you can't not, you look at it and you say, this didn't happen, this isn't real. But then you read this document and it kind of does blow your mind. For example, let's say they were showing more unknowns. They showed more weather balloons during the summer months, and that does make sense, right? Because you don't want to launch them in the cold air of December and November. But the amount of unknowns was normal all year long. So a regular amount of unknowns, but then during the summer months, the weather balloon sightings picked up. So all these things make sense. It's logical. It's pretty cool. Any thoughts on that? And we'll read some of the case files in this as we continue.
Yeah, good stuff. So I'm just cruising through this so you guys can see the PDF and look at what actual science looks like. Right now, this is somebody who's meticulous. They take it seriously. They're charting and graphing and chronicling every single thing and trying to find answers here. So, like I said, if you guys have some time and are interested in the ufology bit and some of the information that came from smart people, right? But the actual people that have spent tons and tons of time. And remember, J. Allen Hynek, after he stopped Project Blue Book, he created his own UFO, what would you call it? His own UFO foundation. So that kind of tells me a lot. But just looking at the graphs here, right? Like we got sketches of actual sizes of things. We have UFOs. We got it's unbelievable the amount of data in here. And this is the Special Report 14, which of course goes back to Stanton Friedman. And like he said, right? If they said Special Report 14, again, by not actually declaring where all the good data is, they essentially hide it. And yeah, so luckily we have it now. It's out. It's been available. I don't know how long, but just look at this: pages and pages and pages of sightings and graphs and drawings and sketches and this and that and the other thing. You saw pie charts and maps and all kinds of crazy stuff. And this is what science should be. This is exactly what, before anybody makes any kind of declaration, right? Of course, we don't live in a world where this is the case anymore. But of course, given that you want to be an expert on something, this would be an expert in this, right? J. Allen Hynek would be an expert in this, and probably unparalleled. And so Stanton Friedman kind of followed up in his footsteps and dug into this stuff. Like, I'm still cruising through these pages, right? As you watch them, right? It kind of makes you dizzy. Page after page after page after page of statistics and analysis. So yeah, it's nuts. This is nuts. This is so much stuff here. And so the PDF here has 310 pages of this, right? So I'm at 122 right now, just cruising through so you guys can see. Again, I've linked it. If you have the time, if you have the patience, if you have the stamina, go through some of this. You'll find some interesting things in here. Because, yeah, again, look at that. Look at the chart. Look at the chart, just like Frank was saying. So we have by month, right? And the different types of actual... Yeah, it's unbelievable. This is the amount of data here is unbelievable. This is somebody that took their work seriously and worked very, very hard. So, yeah, holy smokes.
Yeah, that's why I say it was Allen Hynek, Friedman, and now I think the Black Vault guy. 3 guys that are all very similar, all looking at documents, incredibly boring, but that's where the real information is. Go to page 78. Let's read through one of these cases. So go to page 78, case number 1. 2 men employed by a rug cleaning firm were driving across a bridge at 9:55 in the morning, 1948, and they saw an object glide across the road a few hundred meters in front of them. It was shiny, metallic in construction, about 6 to 8 feet long and 2 feet wide. And there you go. There's a picture of it. Look at that thing. What the heck is that? Round cups protruding from it. So it glided flat, turned to the left, and then took off. And no trace of it could be found. So this is the kind of stuff you'll get in this document. Is what the heck kind of UFO is that thing? Look at that. Cups protruding, a weird S shape. That's insane to see that. So again, this would be one of the unknowns that he referred to in that little interview clip. Who knows what this could be? It's not a weather balloon. I don't even know what I've never seen a UFO like that. What do you think?
I'm going to go down a limb and call this swamp gas. You can book it. Michael Strange says this is swamp gas. Book it. Definitely swamp gas. No, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? Yeah, but you get the point, right? So it's one of those mythologies and actually realities where the scientists that were looking into this stuff had to battle the government to actually get the information out. And so we did Project Blue Book a while back, so if you want to hear more about that, and we probably did that poorly considering that there's a ton of information here, but like I was telling Frank earlier, we could probably do 2 full years on just this Project Blue Book. That's how much data's in here. So it's tough, right? If you want to, again, I've linked it twice now in both the chats, so if you guys want to check it out, I do recommend you check it out because this is the actual data. This is actual scientists looking into this and trying not to cover anything up. And of course, it comes out with a government filter, so take that for what it is. But again, yeah, look at this. What is that? I've never seen a UFO that looks like that reported, photographs, video, anything. But apparently it happened. So crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's hard. We can't go through the entire thing. There's not enough time in the day. Like, I got a job, you got a job, we got people to worry about. All we can do is spend these 2 hours and just pick out the best stuff. But if you have some time, like I've read through this, it's pretty interesting. Go to page 81 and 82, and you'll see more pictures of these things. Like page 81. What the heck is that? Again, I've never seen a UFO that looks like that. This cigar-shaped craft. Some propellant, it looks ejecting from the back. Windows with white lights embedded in the side. A black metallic object. And if you go to page 82, you'll see the classic disc-shaped craft. So deep red glow from underneath, a white light from on top. and no light around the rim. Again, read through it. This is pretty amazing stuff here.
Yeah, definitely. So this kind of maybe fits into the cigar-shaped type stuff. But again, right? So they got a cockpit windshield. And remember, this is an actual government report, guys. So this is people actually asking these questions based on eyewitness testimony and other things. And so, yeah, what the hell's actually happening here? Yeah, definitely good stuff. But to tie this back to Stanton Friedman, which is what we're talking about, and this is the link with J. Allen Hynek and Project Blue Book, and then again, like we said, John Greenwald Jr. There's kind of like a hierarchy. There's a line here where people can keep these things alive and continue to look, because it's millions. Like the blackvault.com has millions of documents, right? In his lifetime, there's no way one person can go through millions. It's impossible. It's a literal impossibility. And so without actually people kind of taking up the torch and the mantle and trying to move on with some of this information and maybe take it to the next step, it needs to be crowdsourced, really. I mean, we need a bunch of people on this. So yeah, crazy. I don't know. The flying saucer shaped? What do you think, Frank? Or I mean, cigar shaped? Kind of like cigar shaped, maybe. Ish.
Yeah, let's read one more from page 85. So a farmer and his two sons, aged 8 and 9, were at his fishing camp on August 13th, 1947. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he went to look for the boys, having seen them by the river. He noticed this object you see here, some 300 feet away, 75 feet above the ground. He saw it against the background of the canyon wall, which was 400 feet high at that point. It was hedge-hopping, following the contour of the ground, was sky blue. Well, that's an interesting detail, isn't it? This thing, so it looks dark in the picture, but it was painted sky blue. Now, why would someone do that? Well, if this thing was way up in the sky and painted sky blue, it would effectively be invisible. So that's an interesting little detail there, isn't it? And it had pods coming from the side, flames shooting out of it. It made a swishing sound. And the observer stated that the trees were highly agitated by the craft as it passed over. So there you go, another sighting report from this thing. And so you see why when Stanton Friedman said there, don't give them the name of the report, then they can't look into it. Then they can't see sightings like this. And there's a reason for that. That's how they cover things up, just by omitting the title of the report.
Yeah, which is typical government stuff, right? So to kind of go back and actually round this out with that in particular, so the government, this is super famous, everybody's talking about this, or let's say infamous, the Mueller report. For instance, they released a PDF, right? And so they make it a non-searchable PDF, right? That's how they release this stuff. It's an intentional thing, right? So if you're looking for a particular thing, you just can't find it. You have to dig through the entire damn document. And so back to, once again, people doing good work. John Greenwald Jr., the Black Vault, we talk about him a lot for a lot of good reasons because he's doing good work. He actually did like a character recognition, optical character recognition, OCR scan, I think it's what's called. And so he actually scanned the document and made it so it was searchable, right? So the government could easily release it searchable, but they don't. Why? Because they're trying to cover shit up. They want to make it impossibly hard for mere mortals to go through this many documents and actually dig out details, because it turns out to be millions of documents, right? When you're looking into this type of stuff, it's unbelievable how much data there actually is, and no one person could ever go through all of it. So there's a perfect example of them just trying to hide stuff by being sneaky, right? They're like, here's a release, but we're going to give you the shitty old school version, so you have to dig through it and spend a bunch of your own time instead of just searching, Control F Seth Rich, for instance, which is in that report, by the way, the Mueller report. Seth Rich is in there. But for example, right, you kind of get the idea. They kind of dodge every chance they can get to give us more information faster. They want to slow down the chain of information and all of that. So there's one example. And yeah, we don't want to be super political here, but they had an unredacted report available to, I think it was the Senate or was it the Congress? I'm not sure which one. But they had the unredacted report available. And the people on those committees chose not to read it. So they could make a big stink about, oh, this thing's redacted, it's out there. They had it available, they didn't read it. They didn't even read it. And so you see things like this, Special Report number 14. If they didn't read a report about the Russian investigation, there's no fucking way in hell they're ever going to read Special Report number 14 about UFOs. Never. Not in a million years. They just won't read these things.
And this is where the real information is. So you wonder why we're not getting any disclosure, where people laugh at you when you talk about UFOs, is they don't want to go through this real information. And again, that's why people like Black Vault, Stanton Friedman, Alan Hynek, they're the real heroes in all this.
Yeah, exactly. And again, people that take the time to go through it. Like I said, it is painstaking and it takes a shit ton of time. And that's just the way it is. That's the way it is. And that's why I haven't read all this. There's just no damn time, right? Like Frank said, we got jobs, we got people we got to take care of, we got tons of things. Real life gets in the way, and they know this, and they intentionally try and slow it down for you. So, yeah. So on that, if you guys haven't read the Mueller report, go to the Black Vault to get it, because he's done the optical character recognition, and you can Control F, find Seth Rich in there, and not have to read 400 effing pages to find that little paragraph. That's what I'm saying. So. Good people out there doing good work. So we slobber on him quite a bit, and it's a little embarrassing, but good people doing good work. It's like David Paulides and the missing 411. Like, there are good people out there doing good things for the world, and so yeah, we want to give credit where credit is due. Yeah. Any more on this, Frank? On the
let's take one more thing away from this. Go to page 261. So this is very interesting. Again, Blue Book happened in the 1940s, right? 1940s. This is an observer data sheet, essentially a questionnaire they give to these people, a standardized form they gave to the people who saw these things that they would have to fill out. So the date of your observation, the date you reported the observation, what time it was, what was it inside, was it in your car, were you outdoors, all this kind of stuff. You can scroll, look how detailed this observational question is. They really want all the details from this. So, for example, at any time did the object change direction, change speed, move behind something, etc., etc., etc. So think about this. This was in 1940. This was the standard reporting scheme for seeing a UFO in 1940. And look how far we've devolved since then. You go on Reddit, r/UFOs, I saw a light in the sky. And that's all you get. That's all the information you get. I saw a light in the sky. I saw this shiny thing. This is weird. Look at the quality of information in the 1940s, the date, where it was, how fast was it moving, what time was it, how was the object observed, through binoculars, video camera, naked eye, eyeglasses, all this information that would be so helpful in figuring out what this stuff is, and nowadays we don't have any of it. So someone just posted, actually, in Discord, and I think Theory Discussion links, they posted something weird, caught this flying outside my window, Skyhunter 369, you can pull that up, that's pretty weird, I was looking at that as you're talking. But imagine if Skyhunter here did that. He actually went through this form, filled out this information. We would have so much more information on his sighting, where it was, what time it is, how fast was it moving, all this kind of stuff. If everyone adopted this kind of answering scheme, this questionnaire, so much more information.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is meant to be comprehensive because they take it seriously. And the government, on the other hand, when they try and slow down the truth, a couple good comments here, going to read them. Sherry says, investigators watching the watchers, and that's exactly the point, right? You have to, because they try and slip this stuff through in the dark of night, like on a dumping day Friday. They expect you to be to barbecue, and maybe you miss it entirely, and that's why we got to be vigilant all the time. Another good comment here. Coleman, what's up, says, truth doesn't come easy by design. Yeah. And that's exactly right. That is to the laser focus of this, and why they make it intentionally difficult to go through millions of documents. Yeah, definitely good stuff. And yeah, I mean, look at this form, guys. Like if you've done actually, I want to point this out real quick. We have somebody else in chat that says they had their daughter see a UFO tonight in Canada. The one she saw, Michelle says, the one she saw coincidentally tonight was circular and flashing, multicolored lights and above the clouds. She said it was definitely no plane. It was traveling slowly, and she felt it was aware of her and of our house. I know that sounds unbelievable, but she was freaked out, right? So there's somehow it's locked onto you, right? Somehow, some way, maybe it's watching you. So Michelle ends up, and I want to actually, there's a point for this. Michelle continues. She's 19, my daughter, who just saw the UFO tonight in Barrie, Canada, Barrie. We're going to report it to MUFON. And so I would actually encourage you to not report it to MUFON, which is why I spotted that and wanted to, we've talked about them quite a bit, and they've got some issues, let's say. Compromise, maybe, it's hard to say, in my opinion, so we don't get sued.
In your opinion.
Yes. definitely. But go to the National UFO Reporting Center. I'll get you a link here, and report it there, because they are more. Let's say, I'm going to say, in my opinion, they are more credible. So I'm going to drop a link in here. If you guys have UFOs, report it to these guys instead. So here we go. That's why I wanted to point that out. So yeah, good stuff on that. Go ahead.
Or even use that form. Like, go to that Special Report 14, get a copy of that form, and fill it out in that graphic detail. I know it takes a long time. It'll probably take you half an hour to fill out. That's a lot of time for this. But look at the detail that the investigator can take away from a fully comprehensive questionnaire like that. So much more than saying, I saw a disc, it followed me, blah, blah, blah. You know, you can get so much more information using. We should type up that questionnaire and have it as a PDF somewhere, a fillable PDF, and just put it on the internet for people to use. Because something like that, if everyone reported UFO sightings like that, I think we'd learn a hell of a lot more than we're learning right now.
Exactly, yeah. And so there you go. Michelle. So if you want to report it, you got the form right here. I'm going to link this. It's on page, what is this, page 261. So if you want to go through, maybe quiz your daughter and actually fill out as much of this as possible to get it, while it's fresh in the mind and it's actually on paper, there you go. You got it. And then, like I said, report it to newfork.org, nuforc.org. I've linked it. So that's the National UFO Reporting Center. A little more credible, in my opinion, than MUFON. So there we go. I just wanted to point that out. And good stuff, right? Again, look at this. So this is a form that is done by serious people looking into this phenomenon, right? Well, how many serious people are continuing this work is the question. And there's far fewer than there needs to be. So, which is back to Stanton Friedman, I hope. That's your cue, Frank.
Yes, sorry, dead air. Let's
You're good.
Okay, again, he's looking through Roswell sightings, interviewing witnesses, tracking down generals. He's going through these dry, boring documents. Let's open up this clip here, the Bible and flying saucers. He's looking through the Bible and trying to interpret the Bible with a modern-day scientific twist, trying to understand some of the terms used in the Bible as actual real events, but the people back then didn't know how to describe them properly. And we've covered this before. Again, if you're a tribesman living in Africa and you see some of this stuff, you're going to use the word God. You're going to use the word magic. But really, there's just good scientific explanations for it. Open up the Bible and flying saucers. Play the clip. Let's see what you have to say about this.
Okay, let's do it. And action.
I think one of the reasons they might be here is really to do a survey of our genetic structure, because we now know that so many diseases are caused by genetic problems.
Actually, you know what?
Not just the obvious ones.
Yeah, all right, killed. You got it, Frank.
A lot of these interviews, again, it's horrible audio quality. Basically, he was looking through the Bible, looking through the events described in the Bible, and saying that these could be UFOs. These could be science back in the day. So open up this Bible quote website. Yes, we're referring to Bible quotes. And you'll see the kind of thing he was talking about. You see that in there? Open up. So the New International Version of the Bible, a third of mankind was killed by 3 plagues of fire. Let me try that again. A third of mankind was killed by the 3 plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur that came out of their mouths. And so he's saying, look at that kind of stuff. Well, that could be a nuclear explosion, a plague of fire and smoke and sulfur, nuclear fallout. So he's looking through the Bible, looking to see if it matches up with science. Again, he's a nuclear physicist. He refers in that clip, you can find that later if you want to listen to the horrible audio, but he refers in that clip, people temporarily going blind in the Bible. And that kind of stuff can happen with radiation exposure nowadays. So there's all this stuff in these ancient documents, not the Special Report 14, but these ancient biblical documents that could be references to UFOs, aliens, and science way back in the day.
Yeah, this is kind of in line with, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with ancient aliens and that sort of thing, right? Where it's basically the ancient alien theory, and that a lot of the ancient gods and these type of events were actually just basically misdiagnosed because they didn't really have words or thought concepts of extraterrestrials. So this is an obvious thing. It's again probably why a lot of you are here, probably why a big part of why we're doing the show. These types of things is that you can't really ancient people can't quantify technology, and so technology is sorcery. I can't remember the exact quote, but you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, so here we are. So Bible quotes, right? So this is evidence. This is evidence. People wrote this stuff, hundreds, thousands of years ago, and so like if you describe it, if you took out the horses and the riders and these types of things, and described them as objects instead, and then did the breastplates, colors of fire, sapphire, and brimstone, it suddenly maybe isn't horses and riders. It's maybe rockets and UFOs and flying things, and yeah. So anyway, there we go. I've linked all this stuff, and yeah. But I think this is, again, a credit one more time to Stanton Friedman and people like that, where you kind of leave no stone unturned. And if there's evidence to look at, and there's ancient documents, why the hell not? Why not look at this stuff? Because maybe there's some connection, for sure, right?
Yeah, definitely. So another thing he did is he went out and he spoke to people. He gave talks all over the country, all over the world. In fact, he wrote these books, wrote these articles, tried to get this information out there. And so I think you have a series of clips where he's talking to, what was it, a Congress or a local government about this kind of stuff, trying to educate these people on the fact that there's reports out there, special report number 14, where they're delineating this information in your face. You just got to read it to learn about it.
Right, exactly. Which the problem is, again, back to the fact that there's thousands or millions of documents and nobody's got the time. So here we go. Here's a series of clips here. We'll play a few of these, and you see what this guy's talking about, and his conclusion on that document 14 of Project Blue Book. One more time, Stanton Friedman, and he's talking about Project Blue Book. What is Special Project 14? What's it called? Yeah, let me get this right.
Special Project number 14, Special Report number 14, and trying to get that information out there to the people, trying to lead the country, lead the local governments, state governments, and the federal government.
Okay, so these are bite-sized. These are going to be quick. So let's play this and see what he actually thought about Project Blue Book and some of the things that people weren't talking about. Action.
I've reached 4 major conclusions. 1, the evidence is overwhelming that Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. In other words, some, underline 10 times, some UFOs are alien spacecraft. Most are not. Don't care about them. 2, there is no doubt that a small number of people within governments, both in the United States and overseas, have been actively covering up the truth about these visits. There really is a cosmic Watergate. 3, there are no good arguments against these conclusions. Only people who haven't studied the relevant evidence. And 4, flying saucer visitations and the cosmic Watergate represent the biggest story of the millennium. And I should say that I prefer the term flying saucer because all flying saucers are UFOs. Very few UFOs are flying saucers.
You catch that? That's smart guys talking about smart things. And one more time, Stanton Friedman. So what do you think about that one, Frank?
Yeah, I like the cosmic Watergate, or the Earth Watergate. It's all a cover-up. Certain people, a very small number of people, and again, going back to exopolitics, Michael Salla, you don't tell these state leaders anything. You don't tell the president, you don't tell the senators and congresspeople anything. You tell it to the CIA agents, the NSA agents, the military generals. Those are the people you tell about this kind of stuff. And the people up there on the podiums, well, they don't learn a damn thing. And I think that's kind of what he's saying, a cosmic Watergate. Yeah, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And so not only that, you notice he seems pretty certain about this. And he's short of J. Allen Hynek, he would be the modern day expert. So, all right, let's play another clip here, and he continues with that thought.
A, there are at least 5 large-scale scientific studies which provide substantial evidence. These include Project Blue Book Special Report number 14, the largest study ever done for the United States Air Force, covering more than 3,200 cases, with more than 200 charts, tables, graphs, and maps. It is quality evaluation, cross-comparison between unknowns and knowns. The official press release lied about the data. I'll document that in a minute. It is almost never referenced by UFO debunkers. Dr. Carl Sagan, we were classmates at the University of Chicago, claimed, there are interesting UFO sightings that are not reliable, and reliable UFO sightings that are not interesting. But there are no cases that are both reliable and interesting. This statement was not backed up by reference to data, but is directly contradicted by the Blue Book Special Report 14 data, it was found that the more reliable the case, the more likely to be unexplainable.
How about that? So, if that doesn't blow your mind about UFOs and the entire Project Blue Book and now Stanton Friedman parsing that data, I don't know what will. So the more reliable the actual account was, the more likely it was unexplainable. Right? Does that blow your mind, Frank?
It really does. And again, I don't know what it takes here. There's this willful ignorance that people have. And that's kind of what he's talking about with this whole thing. They're just willfully ignorant. They either don't want to know about it, or they don't care about it, or they want to shut it down for, I don't know, I guess a sinister reason. But there's this willful ignorance that everyone has about this topic. All this information is out there. Again, there's 20 videos a day. Maybe one or two of them are very compelling on YouTube. Someone in the Discord just posting sightings. Someone in the chat there just said something was following them home. So much information out there, but all these people out there, they're willfully ignorant. And again, there's a term Stanton Friedman used, the curtain of laughter, I believe. I think that's what it is. The curtain of laughter is you got to get through that curtain of laughter. You got to make people realize that this is a serious thing, not to laugh it off. You say UFOs, they laugh at you. That's the curtain of laughter. But once you show them the evidence, you show them the charts and the graphs in that special report number 14, you get through that curtain of laughter and they start taking you seriously. But I don't know what it takes. And that curtain, by the way, made up by the movie industry, Hollywood, making UFOs seem like this fanciful, wonderful thing. That curtain also promoted by people like, I don't want to say it, but Randy Kramer, making the whole thing seem so crazy, so ridiculous that it couldn't possibly be true. You know what I mean? It's this willful ignorance and this laughter that you have to get through, and then people will finally understand this truth.
Yeah, no, and we all go through it, right? Like, we all know somebody who's a staunch skeptic, and you can't really even talk about this stuff without being ridiculed, right? Without people rolling their eyes or being known as, Mike. Oh, Mike's the UFO guy, right? Like, here he goes again, right? Like this type of thing. It's like people just don't. I don't know. Willfully ignorant is a good way to put it. It's you know what it is? It's hard. It's difficult to think about this. It's difficult to talk about these things because they are so far out of the realm of science, right? The realm of quote science. And so, if you officially, technically, right, if you go by the scientific journals and the academia and the major corporations and all the things we always talk about, the governments, the official story is officially this stuff doesn't exist, right? And if you believe in it, if you talk about it, you're a quack, right? That's the official wink wink story. But of course, right, as like I said, a nod to the political news cycle. If you just watch what the hell's going on, they're just lying to us day after day, hour by hour, 24 hours a day. And so, yeah, I mean, preaching to the choir here, I know, but making a weak case even, but it's still a good case, even though it's a weak case, because just because we don't know doesn't mean we can discount the possibility, right? Like, we don't know what we don't know, period. I said that terribly, all of that, but anyway, you guys get the point. Let's roll through a couple more of these clips. They're short, and he says again, right? So we've got hundreds of hours on record, right? And I would trade every single thing I ever said to be as smart as this guy in these 1 minute clips. So here we go. Let's roll the rest of this, and you'll see what I mean. This incredibly smart individual.
United States Air Force Secretary Donald Quarles, in a very widely distributed press release when the 1955 study was completed, flat out lied. It's a strong statement, and I'm sorry to make it, but it's true. He stated, quote, "We believe that no objects such as those popularly described as flying saucers have overflown the United States. Even the unknown 3% could have been identified as conventional phenomena or illusions if more complete observational data had been available." The fact of the matter in the report that he was talking about is that the unknowns comprise 21.5% of the cases, completely separate from the 9.3% listed as insufficient information. The 3% number was a lie. Furthermore, a statistical comparison of the unknowns and knowns showed that the probability that the unknowns were just misknowns was less than 1%.
How about that, Frank?
Yeah, there you go. Applying real stats, real science to this stuff, and you'll learn a thing or two. So much better than, wow, what the heck is this? This is crazy. Oh my God, there's a UFO coming after me, you know? This kind of stuff, this is how we'll get the answers. And it's unfortunate, it's really unfortunate that nowadays clickbait leads everything. Russians are coming, you know, the Chinese are evil, and we do that all the time. But the real information, again, it's in these dry reports. So how do we make these dry, boring reports exciting enough to get people to read them? And how do we make clickbait and all this kind of exciting stuff, I don't know, discredited enough that people don't pay attention to it? You know, that's the thing we're running into here, is that we got to make this real science interesting enough to pay attention to, but we've also got to make clickbait less interesting so people aren't looking at that. I don't know. I don't know what to think. Maybe we should just not care. I'm having a hard time thinking about this.
No, Frank, we have to care. We have to care, because if we don't care, nobody cares, right? And so again, back to us doing this show, right? There's no actual long term. We think this is going to make us rich, because we realize there is no money in the truth. All right, and so you see, right? If anybody has watched us for any amount of time, you know that the things we talk about, we're very careful about saying, yeah, definitely, book it. Aliens are here. They're taking us. They're making DNA out of us. Alien babies, and you know what I mean. Like those claims, like those types of claims, are should be suspicious to people, right? Because it's not, the data is not so cut and dry. It never is. It never is. The devil is always in the details. And if you can't parse that and say, okay, well, if this is possible, then the converse must also be possible. Right? It's like the entire thing is a thought process. And so by just saying, book it, aliens are here, they're putting alien babies in the DNA ovens and cranking out hybrids, right? Like, well, maybe, but like, what's the source? What's the data? Where's the information coming from? Again, like, we're not saying there's lizard people everywhere, and so we aren't on the front page of the History Channel, right? Or, you know what I mean? You get my point. Anyway, I'm rambling. So let's play some more of this. And we got some good comments I'm going to read in a sec too. Anything else before I hit this clip, Frank?
Let's keep going. Let's hear from him instead of dumbos like us.
Amen.
It must further be noted that the press release did not give the title of the report or the company that did the work, Battelle Memorial Institute. If they'd given the title, surely some newsman would have said, hey, what happened to reports 1 through 13? They'd never heard about them. The correct answer, had it been given, would have been that they were all classified. It's a very valuable source of information, this report. It's funny how the debunkers never talk about it. Another primary source of valuable data, which should be of interest to you all, are the congressional hearings of July 29th, 1968, which included testimony from 12 scientists. The most important paper was by Dr. James E. McDonald, professor of physics at the University of Arizona. He had talked to 500 witnesses, but he presented 41 outstanding cases, including multiple witness radar visual sightings by pilots, by astronomers, by meteorologists. He noted physical trace cases, of which, by now, more than 5,000 have been collected by Ted Phillips from 95 countries. They get dull. Same thing was happening all over the world. Saucer is seen on the ground. It leaves. They find physical changes. Happens here. It happens there. It happens everywhere.
Notably, did you notice how he talked about specific professionals, meteorologists, pilots, people who have a lot to lose, that have been through a lot of training, a lot of school, a lot of education. And these are the types of people that are reporting these things. And he's spot on. And right, they have things to lose in this life. They have families to feed. And so you see how things can be easily manipulated based on, well, Michael Strange, we could ruin you for the rest of your life and make nobody ever hire you again. Right? Like, I'm not as smart or as connected as any of these guys. But the fact is that it's a possibility, right? They can grind you into nothing if they want to. And so, yeah, there's definitely one of those, People can't. Professional people can't stick their neck out because there's a neck to chop off. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Probably, yeah. There we go. Let's sum it up, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Is you could easily ruin your life. You know, you say something wrong and they come after you, ruin your entire life. So you got to be careful. Got to take the steps to protect yourself. I'm sure it's happened. Well, we see it happening all the time. Is UFOs? You talk about UFOs, you're a crazy person. Get out of here. No job for you. Social credit score is now going down. It's hitting rock bottom. Don't talk about that. It's tough. It's tough when you talk about stuff they don't want you to. And then Facebook and Twitter and YouTube comes along and says, oh, you're no longer welcome on our platform. So you can't even talk about it if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that people making comments, max headroom. Yeah, exactly. So you guys see what links we have to go through to avoid the copyright censors. Okay, a couple more clips. They're short. Let's play this and finish this out because he makes a good point from start to finish, and got a couple more. Let's roll this, and then we'll wind this out ourselves.
1/6 of those cases involved reports of small beings associated with the craft while it was on the ground. I was the youngest contributor to those, and I think the only survivor since then, to those hearings in 1968. And I was the only one without a PhD. That might tell you something. I'm not sure what. The proceedings, incidentally, are still available online. One of the contributors was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, chairman of the astronomy department at Northwestern University, and for 20 years, United States Air Force scientific consultant to Project Blue Book. His book, The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry, should be required reading by anybody who's going to talk about flying saucers, especially negatively. According to another source here, according to a special UFO subcommittee of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, world's largest group of space scientists, 30% of the 117 cases studied by the University of Colorado, government-sponsored study in the late 60s, and discussed in the Condon report, Edward U. Condon, could not be identified. And yet the headline said scientific study shows no UFOs. Totally untrue.
Totally untrue. Again, right? So it's one thing to hear Frank and Mike, two know-nothings on the internet, just like beating our chests and going, aliens are here, right? That's one thing. But listen to this guy. He's got exacts, he's got specifics, he's gone through the data, and he's citing papers, he's citing congressional hearings, he's, right? I mean, again, like we always say, you got to check your source. You got to make sure your source is credible. And I would put this guy in the credible bucket every day of the week. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, again, 20, 30 years ago, he's talking about all this kind of stuff. No one takes him seriously. No, everyone laughs at him, blah, blah, blah. And again, look at the recent news. Oh, all of a sudden, the Navy is drafting new reporting guidelines for UFOs. All of a sudden, they're going to collect this information more seriously. And here we go. He was telling us to do that 20, 30 years ago. Well, the gears of bureaucracy are finally moving, and now it appears they're doing it. So you look at the news nowadays, it's matching up perfectly with what he was saying all that time ago. It's crazy. It's crazy. We just don't take it seriously. Again, this willful ignorance and this curtain of laughter that I guess the Navy had to get through to finally up their game.
And the media that doesn't get this any kind of coverage, right, unless there's some sort of agenda behind it. So, okay, one last clip. Let's play this, and then we can wind this out. But again, this is Stanton Friedman. He's talking about Project Blue Book, and there's a ton of information in there that really never gets brought out. If you watch the History Channel, right, you see aliens in back to tanks, right? You see what's his face? What's the Nazi rocket guy? What's his name? You see that guy? He's in the show, right? Like you see, there's fables. There's they stretch, right, to make it entertaining. But if you look at Project Blue Book itself, we've linked it several times. I'll link it again. When you have some time, go through it. You will be astounded at the amount of data that's actually available out there. So, but again, it's intentional, right? They don't want you to be able to go through it because there's so many documents. So, okay, let's play this last clip and then we'll wind this sucker out. One more time. Stanton Friedman talking about Project Blue Book, Jan Hynek, and what was that? Report 14, I believe. Okay, action.
There's a 2-volume report called The UFO Evidence, which has loads of data, hundreds of cases that couldn't be identified. There's also the Cometa report from France, which goes into numerous excellent, officially involved cases in France. There are a dozen PhD theses about UFOs. One of them demonstrating how poor the press coverage has been. I haven't seen one about coverage by the scientific community or coverage by the political community. That's another story. Anybody need a PhD thesis topic? There's two good ones. Also, a third one, the will not to believe on the part of scientists. It's a sickness, a disease, if you will, infecting people who think they know all there is to know and don't.
Hey, look at that. How many times have we said that, Frank? Human hubris gets in the way of science. Holy shit. Sometimes even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Yeah, there it is. And it's kind of disappointing is it's not changing. It's still here. Because I don't know. I don't know how they've done it. This is social engineering. This is propaganda. Imagine, again, and it goes as far back as the education system with your little kids in school. Imagine everyone was raised to be inquisitive. They see something, they wonder what it is, they ask questions. That's the way we should live. Instead, it's mockery. UFOs, you're an idiot. You know, it's a sad state of the world, and it propagates into everything. It propagates into this politics in Russia. It propagates into global warming and vaccines and 5G and all this stuff. Is this built-in stupidity that they've essentially forced upon us all throughout our lives, and we've got to break out of it and start asking questions and being inquisitive and learning things, and that's what this guy did. And it's sad he's dead.
It's sad, yeah. So one more time, we're talking about if you're just kind of catching up or just kind of zoning in and out. We're talking about Stanton Friedman, and he was one of the true voices of the UFO community that stuck by the documents and stuck by the actual research that had been done and try to make sense of the things he could make sense of, right? Instead of, again, I'm going to point to us again, like Frank and I deprecate ourselves a lot, and not because we think we're, actually stupid, but it's because we understand that the real amount of work that's done to get to the level of this it's unbelievable. Like, the guy worked for probably most of his adult life on this type of thing, and that's why he's so revered. So one more time, Stanton Friedman, he passed away on Monday night. So just wanted to say rest in peace to the guy. Tons of great work, and this isn't done. Like, this is not a thing that's done, right? Like, he is a standing on the shoulders of giants type of guy. So you can go and follow up on his work, right? If you choose to do so, it's there. All right, he's on YouTube. Like, he's got his own webpage, which we've got tons of links of all this stuff, which, of course, there's never time to get to all of it. But it's all there. It's all there. He's got tons of statements he's made. He's got references. He's got... Yeah, it's unbelievable. The amount of work necessary to be able to speak definitively and convincingly about these things is it's pretty mind-blowing. And he deserves the kudos, I think, because, like I said, it is a damn shame we ended up talking about him after he passed away and not before, because he certainly deserved it.
Definitely. There's a couple more things I want to get to before we end this, so let's try get through them real quick. Open up Stanton Friedman on Bob Lazar. And again, talking about good journalism, good investigations. He looks into Bob Lazar, and just listen as he's going through it, the amount of detail he looks into Bob Lazar. He looks at his job history, his grades, all this kind of stuff. Let's play this clip. Only a couple minutes, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, action.
To UFOs. In the early days, it was mostly people who were trying to outdo each other in their stories of being contactees. They met with aliens. They were taken on trips to the backside of the moon by aliens. And the next guy would say, well, I went to Jupiter, and so forth. And this was a limited subgroup of people, the contactees, as they were called. They had their own subculture. One of the people involved with that movement, Gabriel Green, died in 2001. He even ran for president on a ticket as a UFO contactee. The problem's gotten much more invidious since then, though. We have people ostensibly with credentials who are frauds and who have glommed onto pop culture. Two that come to mind. Robert Scott Lazar, supposedly a nuclear physicist with a master's in physics from MIT, a master in electronics from Caltech, who supposedly worked at Area 51 back engineering flying saucers, figured out how they work using element 115. It's a long, detailed story. You can buy the...
Okay, I'm going to kill that. I had a dog that has to go out, so I was away for a sec. But anything on that, Frank? About minute 20 into this?
Yeah, essentially, again, we don't have time to play the whole clip, but he goes through his history, he looks at his education history, he looks at his grades, he talks to the people he worked with, he investigates this guy's history. Now, we've covered Bob Lazar. Some of the details are very compelling, some of the details are very questionable. And so, as much of a believer as Stanton Friedman was in the UFOs and that they were coming here, and we've heard the entire show, as much as he believed that, he was still skeptical about everything. And so that's the thing. He has the credibility. Yes, I believe UFOs. I've looked through this report, but then I look at Bob Lazar. I don't instantly take him at his word. I don't instantly believe everything he said. I'm still questionable about this facet of the UFO lore. So again, he looked through his history. A lot of it makes me doubt Bob Lazar because, again, this guy's very respected. And his analysis, his journalistic integrity, if you will, it's unparalleled. And we don't see it nowadays. So he questions Bob Lazar. We had an interview here with Jeremy Forbell, the tattooed hipster, if you know who I'm talking about, don't want to be sued, where he debates him, and, you know, Jeremy Forbell, the tattooed hipster, just shouts over top of him, whines at him, cries, and it's ridiculous to see the filmmaker Jeremy Forbell versus Stanton Friedman, and the differences between them. There's a real contrast between them. One is just clearly faking it, clearly making stuff up. It doesn't even know what he's talking about. I'm surprised he can even breathe. And Stanton Friedman here is setting the record, looking at the real evidence, looking at the real investigations. It's a breath of fresh air, and it's amazing. Again, we won't have enough time to play it, but yeah, looking into everything and taking it seriously, not just instantly accepting it as true. That's important.
Yeah, here we go. We're going to play a little bit of this because you brought it up, so here we go.
Doing is creating neodymium magnets to clean out the sand from these huge ball bearings on hovercrafts for the Navy. He's not a scientist? Oh my gosh, he's more of a scientist than any of us because he's doing it daily, weekly.
Look, the smartest guy I ever worked for had a bachelor's degree, 40 patents, and an honorary PhD. No college degree at all. And he ran Oak Ridge's fusion work for many years. Guess what I call him a scientist? Yes. Certainly.
Do you call Bob Lazar a scientist?
Maybe.
Oh, come on, man. The guy runs a United Nuclear.
Hey, take what you can get. United Nuclear, wait a minute now. I worked with the real United Nuclear back in the 60s.
He has contracts with every agency. He's doing things that would blow your mind.
Okay, I think point made. I've linked that video if you guys want to check it out in full. It's like 30 minutes long, but you kind of get Frank's point there.
You can tell who's the whiny bitch and who's the serious person. Like, on one side you have a scam artist, Jeremy Forbell. I'm not going to name his name. I don't want to be sued. And on the other side, you had someone who actually was a nuclear physicist. And so they shouldn't be compared. They shouldn't be in the same room. And you got one guy shouting over top of him, making wild claims, and everyone loves him. You hear the audience clapping for him. And the real scientist, the guy with the real information, the guy who's done the real research, he gets kind of booed. He gets lambasted. This is the UFO field, people.
Yeah, well, this is life. Like, welcome to life also. Because if you have all the answers and you present them in a dull and boring way, guess what? You get nowhere and you're forgotten instantly. But if you can somehow bombastically raise your arms and shout at the sky and say, "These are the answers," maybe somebody pays attention, right? It's all about the delivery. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunate that I guess we need both, right? I mean, to be fair, we're a little bit of that, and so we need both. You need to be able to read the things, look at the documents, look at the data, and discuss the possibilities, and not constantly beat your chest and howl at the moon, because it ends up making you look like a fool in the end, I think. Right? So I think, again, like I said, this is not like a make us rich project, because like I said, we've done this 100 times. I've said this 100 times. All we have to do is talk about, 4 genders, and we're in, right? We're in. Like, what the media wants to hear. What the media wants to promote. All the things that you just have to watch CNN and they'll tell you. We could be doing a show like that, right? Couldn't we?
Yeah,
Frank?
I think we could. Yeah, I could be the filthy liberal, and you could be the staunch conservative, and we could scream at each other, and we'd be making money. We could retire in no time, and it would be so easy to manipulate. It would be ridiculously easy. Just play off these stereotypes, say a bunch of stupid stuff. Well, we're kind of doing that already, and we would be on the top of the charts, no problem.
Yeah, it's about the media narrative and where the money's at. So anyway, so it's important. It's important, guys. Be honest to yourself. Ask the questions and realize that you might actually be fooled by something, right? Because that's again the whole one of the themes of the show is we look at the evidence, but hey, you also got to consider that maybe somebody pulled an elaborate hoax and fooled you. So anything else to round this out on Stanton Friedman there and Project Blue Book and maybe John Greenwald Jr. or any of this stuff, Bob Lazar? Any thoughts there, Frank, as we wind it down? We're about 2 hours, 11 minutes, so...
Yeah, again, it's impossible to summarize someone's entire career in an hour or 2 hours. It's just impossible. Go to his website, stantonfriedman.com. It's still up. He's written articles about UFO propulsion systems on Bob Lazar. He looked at those Majestic 12 documents. And just like all the other research he did in his career, those Majestic 12 documents, he went through them page by page, looked at the details, lined it up with the other documents available, and his conclusion is that even though they've been made fun of in the media, they're clearly fake, they're not real, these Majestic UFO crash and retrieval manuals, that's what the Majestic 12 was. He looked through them and he said, hey, this could be real. This is lining up. This is making a lot of sense. So again, a good researcher, good information coming out of him, and people don't like him because he said Bob Lazar was a hoax. People don't like him because he's revealing inconvenient truths, but he did a lot of good work. And it's sad he's gone. I hope someone else takes up the mantle, and I think that guy is John Greenwald Jr. doing all these FOIA requests, looking into the real information. That's
and I
see
think...
it anyway.
Here's the crazy part, right? So we talk about a lot of these guys. So unfortunately, this is one we'll never meet. But maybe one day we get to meet John Greenwald Jr., right? So there are people that are in this business that have met this man, right? And, like you can say George Norrie at Coast to Coast, whatever you think about the guy, he's interviewed him several times. He's met him. They're probably friends in some capacity. So it's one of those things, right? So as you get into this community, that filmmaker that was in the video with him, like you kind of end up, at least maybe say digitally, rubbing elbows with these folks. So we're still nobody on that chart yet, but maybe one day we are. I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of these folks that do a lot of the good work deserve the credit, all the credit, because they're the ones that are actually pushing the agenda and actually saying, hey, look, this is the data, this is the evidence, I've spent a shit ton of time going through it, and these are my personal conclusions. And go ahead, feel free to prove me wrong, right? But of course, like most experts, if you confront an expert and try and prove them wrong, and they've been through all the data or most of the data, and you haven't, you just look like a fool. So yeah. Anyway, rest in peace, Stanton Friedman. He's going to be missed in the UFO community, and he had a lot of really amazing things to talk about. A lot of really amazing points, and like I said, we're self-deprecating quite a bit. I hope we did a good job introducing you to the man if you'd never heard of him. So there we go.
Yeah, that's about it. There's certain people, they seem boring on the surface, and then you actually take half an hour, take an hour, go through it, and realize the substance of what they're talking about is incredibly exciting. And then there's people that seem amazing on the surface, and then you look into them a bit deeper, and there's no substance there whatsoever. And so we need more of the former and less of the latter, and hopefully that trend continues. And there we go. That's Stanton Friedman. That's the show.
There we go. There we go. And this is where we play the outro music. This is where we do it. You ready for that, Frank? All right.
What's going on in the background? I got invading your house there.
No, I got a couple dogs. I usually lock the dogs up, keep them in a little baby gate so they can't come make noise. But no, they're out free, like smacking their beds around, and anyway, stupid details nobody wants to hear. But that's what's happening. Okay, and so here we go. Outro music, and yeah, there we go. Stanton Friedman, Bob Lazar, J. Allen Hynek, Project Blue Book, and of course, one of our favorites, John Greenwald Jr. from the Black Vault. So theblackvault.com. So you can go check that out. But there we go. That's what we're talking about tonight. If you enjoyed it, please. Whoa, that is way too loud. First, thanks to Todd for the music. Radioactive Beats on SoundCloud. Second, if you enjoy the show, we need your help. Please go to troubledminds.org. That's the official website. You can help us out by leaving us reviews. We're on Stitcher. We're on iTunes. We're on Google Play Music. We're on all the places you'd expect us to be. We're on YouTube, of course. We're on Facebook. Tell a friend. Tell a family member. If you enjoy this type of conversation, we're here for you. Help us out. Spread the word. Give us a review. If you only find yourself not wanting to fill out 22 review forms for 22 different sites, the most important way to help us is on iTunes. Leave us a review on iTunes. That would help us a ton. Thank you. But otherwise, here we are. Thursday night. This was a fun one. I had a good time tonight. And you're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Quick shout out to Martin from Sweden. All the sweet graphics you see in the show. He's the guy. He's doing it. He's the one doing it. At Martin Grand Media. You can find him on Instagram. Thank you to Aaron for Sorceress Records on SoundCloud for the intro music. And I think that sums us up. That squares us up. But otherwise, oh, too much fun. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. I'm here with your co-host, the incomparable Frank Pierce. Thank you for listening, and from our troubled minds to yours, we'll see you Sunday night. Have a great night.